The flying boat sped off, passing by many cities from above. From the sky, Long Chen and the others could see countless disciples rushing about, but they looked like ants working on their lair. Before this, I thought that they would be the ultimate peak of my life, said Li Kai as he watched those figures rushing about. Those people were wearing robes of the Inner Academy, but they were just ordinary Inner Academy disciples. After reaching the Divine Flame realm, they were directly brought in with no test. However, even as Inner Academy disciples, their treatment was only slightly better than Outer Academy disciples. It was a far cry from the privilege of the elite disciples. The area that the flying boat was passing through was filled with ordinary disciples. It was because the elite disciples occupied different areas. The two of them were simply worlds apart. Li Kai was feeling emotional. He had thought that in this lifetime, becoming one of these ordinary disciples would be the best thing he could ever do. In fact, just before they met Long Chen, they were already preparing to break through into the Divine Flame realm and become ordinary Inner Academy disciples. However, due to Long Chen, their destinies had completely changed. Now, they were already core disciples of the Inner Academy, and even the hands of their families couldn't reach here. They had fully escaped the bindings of their families. The High Firmament Academy's elite disciples were existences that their families wouldn't dare to touch. Starting today, I'll work hard at cultivating with Boss San. Once I control my family, I'll bring Ying Bao, Luotong, Li Yi, and the others' close family in so that they can be at peace. Li Kai clenched his fists. The people he mentioned were all existences that were part of the elite group. However, they had died in the divine competition. They all had similar experiences and their own worries. With their deaths, their wishes would be passed on to others to accomplish. We'll all strive to become experts together. We won't endure other people's suppression. I'm not going back to those days where anyone could slaughter me. The other disciples were also emotional. Long Chen had truly transformed them. Now, they saw hope that they had never seen before. Rather than returning to their former days, they would rather die. Originally, they should have become any one of those bustling figures within the cities. But due to one person, everything had changed. Seeing this, Long Chen smiled and raised his thumb at them. These fellows were finally starting to become manly after the baptism of the battlefield. Boss San, you really are my lucky star, said one disciple sincerely. You're wrong. I am a star of calamity. Wherever I go, blood and slaughter follow. Only people with tough enough lives are able to survive beside me. If you wish to follow me, you better be prepared to risk your life. There is no such thing as reaping without sowing in this world. If you wish to be dignified, you must endure hardship that others don't see. Long Chen shook his head. With his terrible luck, to say that he was a lucky star was the greatest irony. Brother San, you must have suffered a lot before, said Zhongling. Remember, the greater a person's light, the greater the shadow cast behind them is. You always have to invest more than you gain. Don't envy others for their amazing backgrounds, talents, or resources. No one can obtain more than others without effort. You might think that Chu Kuang obtained many things that others couldn't obtain in their entire lifetime, but just because he didn't pay for it doesn't mean that the first-generation patriarch of the Chu family didn't pay an unimaginable price to guarantee the safety of his descendants. You might not be a rich second generation, but you can work hard to become the rich first generation. Furthermore, is being a rich second generation really so amazing? Your boss San likes to put those arrogant second-generation fellows in their place, said Long Chen. The disciples laughed. Li Kai and the others could be said to have decent backgrounds, but compared to Chu Kuang, there was a huge gap. The ordinary disciples of the Unfettered Alliance were even further away. From a point of self-inferiority, many people feel jealous, envious, and defeated, simply blaming their origins for not being good enough, blaming the heavens for not being fair. They often think that if they were born in that person's spot, they would be so and so. That kind of thinking is very dangerous. After thinking like that, you can let yourself think that all your losses weren't your mistake, but simply your bad fate. Remember, luck is what the modest victors say, while fate is what the losers use as an excuse. Be prepared. This world is fair, and good things must be fought for. The better the resources, the more intense the fighting. If you think that just by entering the inner academy as elite disciples that you'll have an easy life, then you are gravely mistaken. I can promise that the competition in the inner academy is even more intense and crueler. You also saw those fellows just now. 4 peak experts are simply patrolling around like they're nothing. If you don't work hard, then you might be stuck being a dung picker in the inner academy, warned Long Qin. Although some of his words were a bit exaggerated, they were reality. Despite having not entered the inner academy yet, he could already smell blood. Hence, he had to give these excited children a dose of reality now. Brother San, we understand. We're not afraid. We were ready to give up our lives during the divine competition. If the path ahead of us is filled with pitfalls, then we will cross them fearlessly, said Luo Qingyang while grabbing the hilt of her sword. Long Qin nodded. This warning was just to avoid them being caught off guard and resulting in a calamitous drop in morale. That would be bad. Their current morale was soaring, and that had to be maintained in order to keep a strong unity and drive. Only then could they obtain better lives in the inner academy and gain better resources. At this moment, another barrier appeared in front of them. After the flying boat passed through, they saw a giant gate ahead of them, and over 10 people were guarding this gate. It was forbidden to travel using flying boats further. Hence, Luo Qingyang stopped the flying boat here, and everyone walked off. Did you come to check in? Where did you come from? Asked one of the 4 peak experts guarding the gate frostily. Everyone was startled. What did he mean by where did they come from? Was that not obvious? Luo Qingyang saw that this person was standing in front of Long Qin. Worried about Long Qin slapping him in response, she hastily said, "We are Outer Academy disciples who passed through the divine competition. We're here to check in." Luo Qingyang passed over a special tablet that was proof of their new status. That person received it and then eyed Long Qin oddly. "Why are you not wearing disciple robes?" This is senior apprentice brother Long Qin. He also has another status as an instructor of the God Institute and is permitted to not wear disciple robes, said Luo Qingyang quickly. That person eyed Long Qin up and down. He sneered, "The Outer Academy's instructors are all a bunch of useless scammers. Such a person can also enter the Inner Academy? You talk too much." Finally, Long Qin slapped him in the face. As he crumpled to the ground, the surrounding experts immediately surrounded Long Qin and the others. "Capture him." These 4 peak experts attacked Long Qin at once, their fists hurtling toward him. This place was the entrance to the true Inner Academy. There was a transportation formation here, but not many people were coming and going from it. When these people saw a group of mortal transcendence rookies arrive, they shook their heads inside. They knew that these newcomers were about to face some trouble. There was a custom within the Inner Academy, and that was to bully the newcomers. These people had also been bullied when they came in, so as long as they had nothing else to do, causing some trouble for the newcomers was their way to vent. As for the academy, they pretended not to see this. As long as no one broke the rules of the academy, the disciples could do as they please. Under the glorified name of teaching the newcomers a lesson, they had their arrogance beat out of them. That way, they would be less likely to cause trouble in the Inner Academy. Just as the people here were shaking their heads, Long Qin slapped that 4 peak disciple to the ground, causing them to jump. "There's going to be a good show this time. Get a good spot quick. Brother, can you help me out? You're in the best spot to watch." Dozens of people immediately swarmed over excitedly. They knew that many people were going to be arriving soon when this news spread, so they hastily occupied the best spots. Just at this moment, the other 4 peak disciples attacked Long Qin with their fists. Long Qin was originally preparing to activate his divine ring, but then he saw that these people were only attacking with their physical power. Although they were angry, they didn't use their cultivation techniques or magical arts, or even weapons. Seeing that, he also didn't activate his divine ring. Instead, his fist smashed into the nose of someone charging at him. With a crunching sound, blood, mucus, and tears flew out of his face. "New little brothers, don't worry. It is forbidden to use any magical arts here. You also can't use weapons. If you want to fight, you can only use your muscles. You won't be punished for fighting here, so if you don't like someone, feel free to beat them up. encouraged one of the spectators upon spotting Li Kai and the others who were hesitating. Fights often broke out here. The old disciples bullied the new disciples, and the new disciples naturally wouldn't take that lying down. However, how could some novices beat these senior disciples? Most fights were over in just a few moves. Then they would be allowed to go check in. The academy ignored the fighting here as long as both sides followed the rules of not using their magical arts and weapons. As long as no casualties freely occurred, it was fine. Hearing this, Li Kai and the others immediately charged into battle. Li Kai knocked one senior disciple down with a kick, and before he could get up, another one stamped his foot on his face. The Unfettered Alliance's disciples collapsed on them, fighting in groups of 4 or 5 against 1. As for Long Chen, he knocked down these disciples with a single punch. They were either left with bloody noses, teeth flying out of their mouths, or dislocated jaws. In the blink of an eye, he had knocked down 7 of them without any of them being able to touch his clothes. Damn, that newcomer's pretty strong. Every single one of his punches landed perfectly, leading to the next. How does this generation of newcomers have so many demons? Wait, isn't that fellow familiar? Isn't that Long Chen? As more and more people rushed over, one of them suddenly recognized Long Chen. Long Chen? Who's that? You were in seclusion for half a year, and he joined the academy around 3 months ago. You naturally don't know him. Stop shouting. Sit and watch quietly. Don't ruin other people's viewing pleasure. If you want to talk spiritually, said another person irritably. Just at this moment, a large group containing hundreds of people came out of the gate. They were all wearing guard uniforms. Damn, now it's getting big. The guards were actually disturbed from their drills. This large group immediately charged over just as Long Chen knocked down the final 4-peak disciple. Bastards! It seems that you newcomers are getting arrogant, huh? Beat them up. The guards charged forward furiously. Just like the ones before, these guards didn't use their techniques. They only used their fists and feet. Long Chen felt like these people had to have something wrong with their brains. What was the point of this fight? Vexed, he didn't bother trying to explain. He simply kicked the one who had taken the lead. That person was then sent smashing into the people behind him, causing several broken bones. Although Long Chen hadn't summoned his divine ring or used his astral energy, just his physical body was too powerful for these 4-peak experts to fight him. This fellow's pretty tough. Beat him together. Those guards immediately focused on him. At the very least, they knew that to capture bandits, the first thing to do was to capture their king. Seeing this, Long Chen snorted. They wanted to use close-range combat against him? He'd give them a lesson for free today. Bang. Crack. Aya. Fuck. Long Chen charged through their midst, like a phantom moving through them. Not one person was able to strike him as he attacked them with fists, palms, and claws. Anyone who got close to him simply collapsed with a scream or a painful grunt. When Long Chen flew through their midst like a tiger amongst sheep, the spectators were dumbfounded. What kind of skill was this? There was a saying that 2 fists had difficulty fighting 4 fists. But even in the midst of this chaos, surrounded by enemies, Long Chen was dominating. Dozens of people were knocked down in just a moment, but he wasn't even struck once. While Long Chen was winning, Li Kai and the others were in trouble. Originally, they used numbers to swarm one opponent and were able to win. But now that they were outnumbered, they quickly collapsed. Hey, little sister, don't take out your sword. They don't dare to touch you, but if you take out your sword, it'll be troublesome. Also, once you fall to the ground, they won't touch you. You can just lie down. Just as Mu Qingyun was taking out her sword, someone called out to her. Only then did she notice that just as that person said, once a person was on the ground, the other side wouldn't continue hitting them. They only targeted the people that were still standing. For a moment, Mu Qingyun, Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, and the other female members of the Unfettered Alliance were lost. No one attacked them, but they also couldn't just watch as Li Kai and the others were knocked down. However, did the guys really want them to go fighting with their fists? Just as they were hesitating, the rest of the Unfettered Alliance was knocked down. Their attackers then eyed Luo Qingyang and the others for just a moment before snorting and charging at Luo Qingyang. At that moment, another flying boat descended, and a group of people walked out. Their leaders were Luo Bing and Luo Ning. As soon as they walked out, they saw Luo Qingyang fighting a giant group, so they were dumbfounded. What is going on here? Today was also the day for the Immortal competition's winners to check in. However, Luo Qingyang and the others had been too excited and had moved out in advance. They had been stalled a bit by the rainbow cranes on the way, but they still arrived a bit earlier than Luo Bing and the others. By the time the Immortal Institute's disciples arrived, they saw that Li Kai and the others had been knocked down. As for Luo Qingyang, he was surrounded by hundreds of people. It was a chaotic sight that dumbfounded them. "Qingyang, what happened here? Why are you fighting?" asked Luo Bing. "Because, actually, I don't know either." Luo Qingyang thought about it for a while and suddenly realized that she also had no idea why a fight had broken out here. What? Luo Bing was speechless. Even before entering the inner academy, Luo Qingyang already started a fight. "This is already the second. We had another fight on the way here," said Zhongling helplessly. Hearing this, even Luo Bing couldn't help sighing. Had Luo Qingyang gotten addicted to fighting? "Let's first join in." Luo Ning rolled up her sleeves. Just as she was about to attack, Luo Qingyang stopped her. It was forbidden to use weapons here, so for a woman to join in would put her at too great of a disadvantage. That was especially true for the Immortal Institute's disciples. They had weaker physical bodies, and since they couldn't use magical arts, they would naturally be at an immense disadvantage. After all, those were 4 peak experts. Other than Luo Qingyang, none of them could actually fight them head-on. Don't spread out your attacks. Work together to close in on him. Don't let him dodge. A 4 peak expert tried to give orders, but Luo Qingyang deftly weaved through the crowd, knocking down everyone he touched. This person had received a kick to the abdomen and tumbled back. As a result, the pain made it impossible for him to stand again. The other 4 peak experts joined into a circular wall around Luo Qingyang, pressing down on him from every direction. This was the only way to stop his strange movements. Attack! Over 100 people stepped forward at once, some jumping into the air to seal all paths for Luo Qingyang to dodge. "Blast away!" Luo Qingyang suddenly let out a shout. His voice was like thunder, and those people charging at him were instantly blown back like a flower blossoming. They then tumbled into the distance. With a single chi wave, Luo Qingyang's surroundings were emptied. He had 2 people in his hand as well. Those 2 lay there like mud, their bones broken. Those 2 were the unlucky ones. At that moment, Luo Qingyang had grabbed them and used them as human weapons, swinging them wildly to knock everyone else away. Thus, the 2 of them had passed out. However, Luo Qingyang already showed some restraint, as he had picked out the 2 with the strongest physical bodies. He had not attacked them this entire time just to prepare for such a moment, and the facts showed that it was truly correct to leave himself more outs. The gate now had a mass of people lying in front of it, and only 70 to 80 guards were still standing. However, when they looked at Luo Qingyang, they were filled with terror. They no longer dared to charge forward. Even hundreds of them had been unable to do anything to Luo Qingyang. With their remaining numbers, they would just be asking for a beating. Nice! Cheers rang out after a moment of silence. The spectators then began to clap for Luo Qingyang's display. Ha, how satisfying! These bastards also made things difficult for me when I came. Junior brother, good job. In the inner academy, you can't be a coward, or you won't have a place for yourself. These spectators had been bullied by others when they first joined the academy. Regrettably, they hadn't known things that they knew now, and they also didn't have the power that Luo Qingyang had. Thus, seeing these guards get put in their place, they felt particularly refreshed. "Are we still playing? If not, I'm going to go check in," said Luo Qingyang, tossing the 2 half-dead fellows to the ground. "Brat, don't think that a powerful physical body means that you can be arrogant. If it weren't for the academy's rules, we'd have beaten you to a pulp," cursed one of the disciples who was lying on the ground. They were not allowed to use their cultivation base, their cultivation technique, their battle skills, their weapons, and many other advantages that they had here. That was why this beating was particularly vexing. It wasn't that their power was inferior, but the rules were inhibiting them. Long Chen then walked up to that person and patted his face with a dangerous expression. You shouldn't complain. You should thank your academy's rules, or you would currently be in the netherworld complaining to a Yama king. For some reason, being stared at so closely by Long Chen made that person's hair stand on end. He felt like he was staring into the eyes of a terrifying beast that had once more consumed him. The sensation of death filled his heart. Seeing that this person wasn't talking any longer, Long Chen slowly stood and patted some dust off of his body. He then walked over to Li Kai and pulled him out. At this time, the other unfettered alliance disciples were also helped up. Although they were injured, it was just a battle with physical bodies, so the wounds weren't severe. After all, no one had dared to strike them in their vital regions, so they could still stand. Only some people had some trouble and needed to be supported. The first words out of Li Kai's mouth were, "Boss San is mighty." Brother San, Mu Qingyang walked over a bit uneasily. They hadn't participated in that battle, so they felt bad. Long Chen waved her off. This was a battle between men who had nothing better to do. It was nonsense. Wouldn't you have been laughed at by others for joining in? Long Chen waved to Luo Bing and Luo Ning. Let's go check in. Luo Bing and Luo Ning stared at him speechlessly. What a carefree disposition. After beating people, he just walked off like nothing had happened. Even his smile was so bright. The guards also struggled to crawl up now, but some people couldn't walk and needed to be carried away. 8 people were left at the gate to serve their duty, while the rest left. It would probably cost quite a bit of money for them to recover. However, Long Chen ignored them. He asked the spectators where to check in, and with their guidance, they were quickly done. They finally received their official status plates as disciples of the Inner Academy. Starting now, they were elite disciples of the Inner Academy. Li Kai and the others practically danced with excitement despite having bloody and swollen faces. This was something so great that it brought honor to their ancestors. After obtaining their new status plates, they had 7 days of free time. During this time, they could celebrate with some of their friends in the Inner Academy and say goodbye, send word to their families, handle administrative matters, etc. After 7 days, they would no longer be allowed to freely come and go, and would have to keep up with the cultivation system in the Inner Academy. Their freedom would be limited. Just as Long Chen and the others finished the procedure and were leaving, they found that the door out of the check-in location was blocked by a new group of people. Long Chen was startled. They had to beat their way in and then beat their way out? Was the Inner Academy's welcoming ceremony really so special? Seeing his unfriendly expression, Luo Bing hastily grabbed him and whispered, "They're not here to fight. They came to give us their card." As expected, someone immediately rushed over to Long Chen and courteously said, "Junior brother, welcome to the Inner Academy. First, let me congratulate all of you on becoming elite Inner Academy disciples. I know you're all busy, so I'll keep it short. The Wind Tiger Gate is a very powerful force in the Inner Academy. Although we only formed half a year ago, our Gate Master's ranking has been steadily climbing. He is also a magnanimous and generous person whose family is extremely powerful. He has always had plenty of resources available." After that person's long speech, Long Chen understood that it was recruitment. "Junior brother, come to our Clear Wind Valley. Our Valley Master is a beautiful woman. With your talent and aptitude, I'm honestly telling you that you have a high chance of obtaining a beauty. Long Chen, our Heavenly Dragon Gate shares the Long character with you. If you don't join us, aren't you letting down our fated connection?" These people had all come to recruit them, not just Long Chen. Mu Qingyang, Luo Bing, and the others were also surrounded. "Sorry, but we're from the Luo family. We won't join other guilds," said Luo Bing. As soon as she said this, those people gave up on them and focused on the unfettered alliance. There's no need to answer immediately. You can compare and look around. Let me just leave you with our card. There's an introduction there. You can consider it later. Someone confidently, directly gave Long Chen a refined card with no other greeting or speech. Long Chen received it and looked. There was a summary of this guild's history and accomplishments, what kind of benefits and treatment he would be given if he joined, as well as plans for the future. Long Chen clearly understood that the competition in the inner academy was far more intense than in the outer academy. People were already starting to fight over potential recruits. Hundreds of people had come, and each of these people represented a guild. Long Chen was surprised by that. Did the inner academy really have so many guilds? After that, Long Chen received all their cards, but he didn't have time to read them all right now. "Brother San, are you planning on starting your own guild in the inner academy?" asked Mu Qingyun. Long Chen shook his head. "I'm not interested in that. If it weren't for Chu Kuang, I wouldn't have even bothered participating in the divine competition. Even if I didn't join the competition, I could have entered the inner academy through the Pill Institute. Moreover, I have many things to do in the inner academy, and I don't have time for such trivial matters." Upon entering the inner academy, it was possible to obtain many resources. Hence, Long Chen wanted to spend his time raising his power, not this childish nonsense. Mu Qingyun felt a bit disappointed. Although she had expected this, she couldn't help feeling this way. If Long Chen wanted to create his own guild, they would all immediately join. But by saying this, Long Chen was saying he had no interest in the competition between guilds. Mu Qingyun wanted to keep the unfettered alliance, but just by herself, she felt like she wouldn't be able to last amongst these geniuses in the inner academy. However, she was also unwilling to just let the unfettered alliance go like this. Long Chen looked at her and smiled. "Every person has their own mission, their own burden. Your burden can be lifted by others for you for a while, but not forever. If you are unwilling to let go of this burden, then work hard to lift it. No matter what the result is, at least if you try, you won't have regrets. As long as you face it with all you have, who cares whether it turns out good or bad?" "Brother San, I understand." Mu Qingyun smiled. That was true. Before she had met Long Chen, hadn't the unfettered alliance been fine? How could cultivation be dependent on someone other than yourself? Long Chen didn't wish to interfere in their cultivation path. He felt like he was just a passing guest in other people's lives. He could help now, but that wasn't necessarily good for their future. Furthermore, Long Chen truly detested this kind of senseless fighting. His time was far too precious for such a thing. How did he have time to waste on such things? Just at this moment, a group of inner academy disciples in white robes walked in. The Luo character was written clearly on their chest in golden thread. "The Luo Alliance's people have come," whispered one of the guild ambassadors. This time, there were over 10 of them, and they were only in the divine flame realm. Despite that, just in terms of aura, they were not inferior to those 4 peak guards. These were clearly real experts. Their leader was a tall, handsome man. Every single one of his movements contained the bearing of an expert. "Senior apprentice Brother Qingyang, we finally meet," said Luo Bing hastily. This person was the Luo family's heavenly genius, the leader of the Luo family's force in the inner academy, Luo Qingyang. According to seniority, she should call him Big Brother. However, in the Luo family, as a child, she had been under the same master as Luo Qingyang, so she was used to calling him Senior Apprentice Brother. "I've heard what happened. You entered this time completely due to luck," said Luo Qingyang. "Precisely. If that Gu Fei wasn't conned by Chu Kuang, our chances of winning would be low," said Luo Ning fearfully. Gu Fei truly had been powerful. However, Luo Bing and Luo Ning didn't actually fear him. It was more so that he had multiple other experts like Yuan Xinghui who had concealed their power as well. Even if the 2 of them would be able to eke out a draw in a fight, the rest of their members would be slowly defeated. Then with just the 2 of them remaining, the chances of them winning would be low. Thus, Luo Qingyang was correct in saying that they had managed to enter the inner academy through luck. "Long Chen, let me introduce you. This is Senior Apprentice Brother Luo Qingyang, one of the Luo family's geniuses and the head of the Luo Alliance. In the future, we can all get along," said Luo Bing, pulling Long Chen away from the others who were stuffing cards into his hand. Only then did he notice Luo Qingyang and the others. However, when he saw Luo Qingyang's expression, he was startled. And seeing Luo Bing pulling his sleeve, he instantly understood. He smiled and cupped his fists, escaping her hold. "This junior is Long Chen. Nice to meet you." Luo Qingyang's expression became a bit unnatural, but he squeezed out a slight smile and also cupped his fists. Nice to meet you. Luo Bing was surprised. Originally, she had thought that Luo Qingyang would enthusiastically recruit Long Chen. After all, he had helped them out immensely. An existence with limitless potential like him was a great asset to the Luo alliance, but Luo Qingyang seemingly had no intention of recruiting him. Luo Ning then looked from Luo Qingyang to Long Chen. A faint smile appeared on her face, but she didn't say anything. At this moment, the atmosphere grew a bit awkward. Well, the check-in is done. We still have some things to do, so we won't disturb you any longer. Long Chen then started walking away with the unfettered alliance. Luo Bing stared helplessly. She had been excited to introduce the two of them, but things had turned out this way. However, just as Long Chen was walking to the door, another group of people appeared. As for these people, their chests had a large Chu character emblazoned on them. Seeing them, the Luo family's people instantly clenched their fists. The Chu family's people? Long Chen was first surprised, but then he thought of how big of a ruckus he had caused. The Luo family's people had come, so the Chu family's people couldn't possibly be unaware of it. It would be strange if they didn't appear. The Chu family had also brought more than 10 people, and their gazes were especially hostile toward Long Chen. Killing intent dripped from their eyes. Moreover, their leader was someone that gave Long Chen a sense of pressure. This person's aura was exceptionally intense, so it gave him a feeling of mortal danger. However, that wasn't strange. This person should be the Chu family's top genius in the inner academy. His cultivation base was in the divine flame realm. If his talent was on par with Chu Kuang, then Long Chen probably wasn't a match for him in his current state. In the mortal transcendence realm, a person accumulated power. And in the divine flame realm, that power erupted. The mortal transcendence realm could be considered piling up firewood, while the divine flame realm was igniting that foundation. The greater the talent, the greater the power that erupted after igniting the divine flame. The divine flame realm could be considered lighting the first lamp on a person's path of cultivation. It was also the most important starting point. Only by entering the divine flame realm could a person truly be considered a cultivator of the immortal world. The head of the Chu family's forces was a somewhat skinny fellow. His gaze was dark and gloomy, giving people chills. With Long Chen walking out and them walking in, the two of them almost ran into each other. They were less than 10 feet from each other before both of them stopped at the same time. The Chu family's people glared at Long Chen. However, their leader didn't have any rage in his eyes. Instead, he suddenly smiled. "I have to thank you." This startled everyone. Was it the opposite day? Long Chen had just killed the Chu family's heavenly genius. Moreover, even the two higher-ups of the Discipline Institute had been dragged away and there was no news as to their current state, but he had to thank Long Chen? There's no need to thank me. Helping people is its own pleasure. Spanking people who are full of themselves is simply the right thing to do, so it's not worth mentioning, said Long Chen indifferently, clasping his hands behind him. Luo Bing held back a laugh. Long Chen's words truly were so funny that she almost got caught off guard. However, while she almost laughed, beside her, Luo Qingyang had no mirth in his eyes. Upon seeing the way Luo Bing stared at Long Chen, his heart sank. Although they were both surnamed Luo, the Luo family didn't prevent marriage within the same family. As long as they weren't directly related within 10 generations, it was allowed. Luo Qingyang liked Luo Bing, and he had also vaguely expressed it before. However, he didn't know if it was simply because Luo Bing didn't understand the relations between men and women or if she was avoiding him, but she had never given him an answer. In truth, Luo Qingyang was simply blithely unaware that Luo Bing was someone with a strong sense of duty. In her heart, she only cared about the Luo family. She put everything into her cultivation and didn't wish for romantic matters to disturb her Dao heart. Thus, despite her beauty, even after all these years, Luo Bing responded indifferently to any romantic regards. She never had any contact with men. However, today, she had grabbed Long Chen's arms so naturally, causing Luo Qingyang's heart to thump. A wave of nameless anger then rose within him. Fortunately, Long Chen had sensed it and used the opportunity to cup his fists toward him to escape that somewhat intimate hold. It could be considered him showing Luo Qingyang his attitude toward such a thing. However, now Luo Bing's gaze toward Long Chen and that smile caused the flames of rage within Luo Qingyang to fully ignite. He couldn't suppress them any longer. Not sensing this, Luo Bing continued watching Long Chen, wanting to know what would happen now. Luo Bing and Luo Ning's people had already walked over to stand behind Long Chen. This was a clear standoff. As the Chu family were mortal enemies with them, it was only natural for them to stand behind Long Chen. The Luo Alliance's people began to walk before Long Chen as well, but they then stared at Luo Qingyang oddly. He wasn't moving. Ultimately, Luo Qingyang also chose to walk over. Although he was unwilling to stand on Long Chen's side, he had to express his position clearly as well. That person from the Chu family smiled at Long Chen's response. What an interesting response. But I truly have to thank you. And I really don't need you to thank me, said Long Chen solemnly. Zhongling actually couldn't hold back her laughter this time. Despite knowing that this wasn't the place, she couldn't stop it. However, that person didn't get angry. Let me introduce myself. I am Chu Yang, the head of the Chu Alliance here in the Inner Academy. Chu Kuang was my half-brother on my father's side, and he was also one of the candidates in line to become the next family head. I have to thank you because you've helped me out quite a bit in grasping that position. Although that little brother of mine was always pampered, to tell the truth, I really was a bit afraid of his talent. He was even more talented than me, and his mother's side has greater power. Even my father was somewhat restrained by them, so Chu Kuang was truly qualified to be so arrogant. If he had properly cultivated, he would probably have had the greatest chance to become the family head. Unfortunately, there are no ifs in this world. So I must thank you. I've decided that when I kill you, I'll leave you with an intact corpse. What do you think about that? Li Kai and the others were enraged. This Chu Yang was even more hateful than Chu Kuang. He could infuriate people with such a calm expression, and that indifferent tone of his was particularly irritating. Long Chen shook his head with a somewhat bitter expression. Those words of yours really make me feel bad. Oh, asked Chu Yang casually. It's just that I'm not capable of holding back like that. I can't guarantee that I'll leave your corpse intact, said Long Chen. Haha. Chu Yang laughed. Interesting, really interesting. Do you know why I haven't eliminated the Luo Alliance all this time? What a joke. Do you think that the Luo Alliance is spineless? Raged one of the Luo Alliance's experts. During this time, the Chu Alliance had fought the Luo Alliance multiple times, and both sides had had casualties. Neither side had gained any advantage. I'd like to hear it, said Long Chen with interest. He felt that this Chu Yang was a far greater opponent than Chu Kuang. Chu Yang ignored the one who had interrupted their conversation and indifferently said, "The main reason is because of Chu Kuang. According to the family's orders, I had to pave the way for him and leave all the flashy things to him. That way, he would have a greater list of achievements when he fought for the family head position. I plant the trees for him, but he plucks the fruit. But now that he's dead, all the fruit is mine for the reaping. Now you understand, right?" Long Chen nodded. "I understand. Now you can reap your harvest as well as get revenge for Chu Kuang. It's two birds with one stone. It seems that you're quite lucky. Thus, I need to thank you." Chu Yang smiled. "I already said that there's no need to thank me. It's simply natural for me." Long Chen also smiled. "Then what do you have planned next?" asked Chu Yang. Long Chen shrugged. "What plan could I possibly have? I don't like trouble. But I'm not afraid of it. The path of cultivation is long and dreary, so occasionally slaughtering a few people will make it more interesting. That's not bad." From just the tone, people would think that these two were old friends who were talking and laughing. However, their words were chilling. "Alright, then let's wait and see. I hope you won't disappoint me," said Chu Yang. "Don't worry, I never disappoint people. But before you go, can I ask you something?" asked Long Chen suddenly. "Please, go ahead. Are your knees bent and those two people protect you on the left and right there because you're afraid that I'll slap you?" asked Long Chen. Upon hearing this, Chu Yang's expression finally twitched. He then snorted and left with his people. Brother San, that person is terrifying. Mu Qingyun's expression was grave. After the previous battle, her mental realm had sharply increased, so she could clearly sense that Chu Yang was concealing immense power. The gulf between him and Chu Kuang was huge. If the two were compared to swords, Chu Kuang was a blunt sword, while Chu Yang was fully sharpened and shining. Yes, he could be considered a real opponent. He knows how to reserve himself and test other people's weaknesses. He is daring yet scrupulous, being careful not to let himself fall into danger. However, this person schemes far too much. After scheming and scheming, your attention is drawn off of the path of cultivation. He's nothing to worry about, said Long Chen indifferently. Aren't people who are skilled at scheming the most frightening? Asked Li Kai. Long Chen shook his head. You have to realize that scheming is something that people learn. No one is innately born a master of this. As long as someone teaches you, then anyone can learn it. The only difference is who can scheme deeper and further. However, the path of cultivation is ultimately one that competes with power. In front of absolute power, those schemes are meaningless. For example, in this competition, Chu Kuang schemed deeply and arranged every detail. But didn't he still lose his life? No matter how someone schemes, as long as you simply focus on cultivation, then who cares about their schemes? Just break them with a single slash of your sword. Furthermore, with their little intelligence, any schemes that they can think of are simply shameless tricks. As long as you experienced enough schemes, you'll find that they're all similar and you'll learn how to use them. But these schemes can be thought of by anyone. Power is different. Power is something without any tricks to speak of. It is something slowly accumulated over time. Thus, when you encounter schemes, just learn from the experience. Don't go researching such things in depth. That will simply delay your own cultivation. The gains are not worth the losses. Understood. Li Kai and the others nodded. Although they didn't fully understand, they knew that their boss Long Sen couldn't possibly be wrong. Long Chen, why don't you join our Luo alliance? We can all work together against Chu Yang. If that happens, our odds of success will rise, and it will be safer for everyone. With my understanding of the Chu family's people, the Chu family will not just target you. They will also cast their anger on everyone who participated in the battle, warned Luo Bing. However, before he even replied, Luo Qingyang said, for junior brother Long Chen to join the Luo alliance would definitely be no problem. But we will still have to discuss it amongst ourselves first. You, Luo Bing stared at Luo Qingyang in disbelief. She didn't know what was going on with this person who had always been highly regarded by the family. Not only was he not friendly with Long Chen before, but he even said such a thing now. Just what kind of person was Long Chen? He was the genius who had slain Chu Kuang, and he had limitless potential. Such a genius was something they couldn't pull in even by begging, but Luo Qingyang actually wanted to discuss it first as if Long Chen was the one begging? Despite not being close to Long Chen for long, Luo Bing was deeply aware of just how proud Long Chen was. Luo Qingyang's words had essentially shut him out. No. Right now, even Luo Ning was enraged. She had seen some of the clues. However, even if this was a matter of pursuing a woman, it should be an above-board and honorable pursuit. Such a petty response that didn't care about the big picture was deplorable. Furthermore, Long Chen was mortal enemies with the Chu family partially because of the two of them. And now that Chu Yang was targeting Long Chen, Luo Qingyang actually said such a thing. Long Chen frowned and eyed Luo Qingyang. He indifferently said, I, Long Chen, slaughtered my way out of a sea of blood and mountain of corpses. I didn't do it by relying on someone else's charity. It didn't happen in the past, and it won't happen in the future. Long Chen had noticed that Luo Qingyang liked Luo Bing, and he had expressed that he had no such intentions when it came to Luo Bing through his actions just now. However, this person's words and actions were all so petty that Long Chen already detested him. It was no wonder that Luo Bing hadn't fallen for someone with such a narrow heart. Even Mu Qingyun, Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, Li Kai, and the others were enraged. His words just now sounded like they were begging to be protected by the Luo alliance. Long Chen directly left and Mu Qingyun followed. But as she left, she icily turned back and said, Your ignorance will harm your Luo alliance. Long Chen, Qingyang. Luo Bing panicked, not knowing what to do. Bing, ignore them. Our Luo alliance is currently strong enough that we don't need outside forces. Let's go back to the Luo alliance. We've already prepared a celebration for you, said Luo Qingyang. Shut up. Luo Bing frowned angrily. Do you realize that if it weren't for Long Chen, the two of us would have long since died in the lava cave? Do you realize that because of us, Long Chen ended up building a sea of blood in terms of enmity with the Chu family? Your actions are essentially a betrayal. Do you realize just how important Long Chen is to the Luo family? You've actually thrown away such an important opportunity to the Luo family. Luo Bing was so angry that tears flowed out of her eyes. The pills that Long Chen refined could stimulate the Luo family's bloodline power, and that was immensely important to the current Luo family. But Luo Qingyang had actually driven him away. Luo Qingyang, I know that you like my big sister. But if you like someone, you should do it above board. This scheme of yours? Despicable, spat out Luo Ning. Luo Bing was startled to hear this, along with some experts of the Luo alliance. They didn't dare to look at Luo Qingyang. What nonsense are you spouting? I do like Binger, but I'm just acting according to the rules. Long Chen's origins are unclear. Who knows if he's a spy from the Chu family? What's wrong with saying that we need to discuss this first? It's not like I directly refused him. Raged Luo Qingyang. Ha! A spy from the Chu family slaughtered the successor of the Chu family's head? Luo Qingyang, I've always respected you, thinking that you were talented and smart, and that you would become one of the pillars of the Luo family. But I didn't expect you to be so petty. You actually harmed the family for your own selfish reasons. I misjudged you. Luo Bing turned away from Luo Qingyang disappointedly. She had never thought that he was actually such a person. I order you as your senior apprentice brother to return to the Luo alliance, shouted Luo Qingyang. I won't go with you. Luo Bing, will establish my own guild. After saying this, Luo Bing walked away with Luo Ning and the rest of her alliance. Luo Qingyang remained standing where he was, grinding his teeth. He had never expected things to turn out like this. Long Chen, this is all your fault. Luo Qingyang clenched his fists, his eyes blazing with unconcealed rage. I didn't think that the Luo family would produce such an idiot. He actually pushed out Boss San, said Li Kai angrily on the way back to the outer academy. Long Chen shook his head indifferently. Even if they invited me, I wouldn't join the Luo alliance. I don't like groups. Long Chen felt like his actions just now had been a bit inappropriate. He was still a bit too childish. He had never planned to join, so why did he get angry now? Perhaps it was because the Luo family was his mother's family, so he couldn't endure thinking that his mother's family would have such idiots. Long Chen, wait a moment. Just at this moment, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, and the others rushed over. Luo Bing was extremely apologetic. I'm really sorry, Long Chen. There's nothing to be sorry about. I wasn't planning on joining any guild, said Long Chen. No, it's not the same. Luo Qingyang treated you with such an attitude, so I'm sorry for subjecting you to that, said Luo Bing. My big sister actually had a fight with Luo Qingyang because of you. We're planning on establishing our own Luo alliance, said Luo Ning. Long Chen solemnly said, that wouldn't be good. You're essentially splitting the Luo family's forces. It will only make it easier for Chu Yang to defeat you. I know. But Luo Qingyang is too narrow-hearted to focus on the Luo family's future development. Also, I wish to establish my own Luo alliance because I don't want to have to fight with him over strategy. I'll report this to the family after I establish it. If our Luo alliance's power surpasses Luo Qingyang's, then according to the rules, I can take in the old alliance and become the leader of both. The Luo family's leaders must prioritize the family's future over everything else, or they wouldn't be fit to be a leader, said Luo Bing seriously. You're too strongly attached. There's no need for you to do this, right? Even if I don't like Luo Qingyang, it won't affect our relationship. The collaboration we discussed earlier can still be carried out, so don't worry about it. It might be better for you to work with Luo Qingyang for now. Once your power surpasses his, you can take his position. That might be safer, said Long Chen. Luo Bing shook her head. You don't understand. I'm stubborn. After that falling out, I won't work with him any longer. I have to hurry up and resolve this matter. It's too bad that the God Institute's disciples can't join your Immortal Institute's guilds, or together we would be stronger, said Mu Qingyang. Although they were all Inner Academy disciples, there were still many institutes dividing the academy. Most of a person's movements had to be within their own institute, so Mu Qingyang had no way to form one guild with Luo Bing and Luo Ning. It's fine, we can just be allies. We'll help each other, said Luo Bing. Together, they would have additional assurance in the Inner Academy. Furthermore, they would have to make their breakthroughs to the Divine Flame realm now that they had entered the Inner Academy as elite disciples. After they became Divine Flame experts, while it couldn't be said that they would instantly leap to being first-rate experts, they would definitely be above average. After chatting a bit, the previous air of displeasure over Luo Qingyang dissipated. Long Chen had already expressed that he wouldn't join any guild, so they would have to rely on themselves. Mu Qingyang, Luo Bing, and the others all nodded with a smile. They knew that Long Chen didn't want them to get dependent on him. In cultivation, the only one that you could rely on was yourself. If both of their guilds were actually in trouble though, they didn't believe that Long Chen would just watch. Furthermore, Long Chen needed to increase his power, so they shouldn't disturb him. Hence, whether or not he joined their guild was nothing more than a formality. They felt more free after thinking through this. Upon returning to the Outer Academy, Mu Qingyang gathered the rest of the Unfettered Alliance. This time, less than 400 members of the Unfettered Alliance were joining the Inner Academy. After all, over 1,500 of them weren't able to participate in the competition, so they would be remaining in the Outer Academy. Mu Qingyang had to arrange things for these people. The Unfettered Alliance needed to continue growing there. That way, they would have a source of fresh blood in the Inner Academy after the next divine competition. For example, if Chu Kuang hadn't died, then the Chu Alliance would have gained a large batch of powerful experts this time. Those disciples would instantly strengthen the Chu Alliance to a new level. Originally, the Chu family's plan was for Chu Kuang to lead these new forces into the Inner Academy. Once they reached the Divine Flame realm, they would sweep through their opponents, crushing the Luo Alliance. Regretfully, this plan hadn't accounted for an anomaly like Long Chen. The disciples that hadn't participated in this divine competition would have a chance in the next competition. However, those that were weaker but had reached the peak of mortal transcendence wouldn't be able to wait any longer. They could only make their breakthroughs to the Divine Flame realm and enter the Inner Academy as ordinary disciples. Cultivation was simply that cruel. There was no other way around it. As the resources were limited and the academy wasn't a charity, the resources were given to the strong. Mu Qingyang had chosen a new leader for the Unfettered Alliance in the Outer Academy. She then encouraged them to work hard and win the next competition so that they could also become elite disciples. After that, she passed down some administrative tasks. As for Long Chen, he wanted to see the 7-star Elder, Heaven Master Yunyang, and Heaven Master Dongming. They had all helped him, so he had to thank them. However, he didn't get to see the 7-star Elder. He heard that the latter was in seclusion to refine pills and would probably only come out next month. As for Heaven Master Yunyang, he was lecturing right now, so Long Chen went to see Heaven Master Dongming. Heaven Master Dongming heaped piles of praise on Long Chen, encouraging him to study more in the Immortal Institute once he entered the Inner Academy. He felt that Long Chen could walk the path of dual god and immortal cultivation. He also told Long Chen that if he had any trouble, he should find him. After paying respects to Heaven Master Dongming, Long Chen thought about going to see the head judge of the Discipline Institute. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. This position was special, and getting too close might bring a bad name to the Discipline Institute and the head judge. In any case, he estimated that he would be seeing the head judge quite a bit in the future. After all, with the endless fighting in the Inner Academy, he would probably have to go on trials quite a bit. On the third day, Long Chen received a bit of vexing news. Chu Huairan and the other magistrate had been released. Last time, they tried to kill him. But somehow, they had been released, and it seemed that they hadn't even been punished. This meant that the head judge didn't manage to knock them down. Those two actually dared to kill him in front of everyone but had escaped without any punishment? Was this academy rotten to the core? Or was it to say that even the dean had been bought by the Chu family? How was Long Chen supposed to play with them now? This news left him vexed. Hence, he randomly walked around, and without realizing it, he wound up in a secluded corner. After that, he sat on a stone bench, staring into the air blankly. He wasn't afraid of Qingyang, but having those two old fellows targeting him was irritating. Just at this moment, he heard the soft sound of sweeping. An ashen-robed elder was sweeping not too far from him. "Youngster, your steps are heavy and your aura is turbulent. Did you encounter something vexing?" The elder's head was lowered. He almost seemed to be talking to himself. "Senior, what a coincidence. We meet again." Long Chen hastily stood. This elder had given him an extremely deep impression. The first time Long Chen had come to the Pill Institute, he had asked this elder for directions. Furthermore, the first time he saw this elder, he had a kind of feeling that this elder was definitely not ordinary. When Long Chen had been surrounded by law enforcement disciples, the 7-star elder He Ziyu had come, and even with his status, he had acted reverently toward this elder. That confirmed Long Chen's guess. Now that he saw this elder again, he hastily rushed over. "Senior, how about I help you sweep?" "No, with that tyrannical qi in your body, this broom can't endure your power." "I'll do it," said the elder. "Senior, how long have you been sweeping?" probed Long Chen. "How long? I don't remember. I've swept through the spring, summer, autumn, and winter. I've swept through ice, frost, rain, and snow. I've swept through fine black hair to white strands. I've long since forgotten time." The elder shook his head and suddenly asked, "Young fellow, how is your temper?" Long Chen was startled. The elder had asked him the same thing the first time that they met, and now he asked him again. Long Chen answered, "It's all right. It can't be called good but also not bad. Perhaps it should be said to be sometimes good and sometimes bad." The elder nodded. "You see yourself quite clearly. You should know that it's easy for people to see others clearly, but seeing themselves is truly difficult. But you're the opposite. You see yourself clearly, but can't see through the things around you." The elder was seemingly tired. Upon spotting the stone bench, he placed the broom to the side and slowly sat there. Long Chen hastily helped him sit. The elder seemed almost doddering, and it didn't seem to be an act. His blood qi was truly dried up, so he could be considered to have one foot in the grave. "Senior, at such an age, why are you still working?" Long Chen sat down with him. "No, this isn't working. It's a kind of cultivation." The elder smiled at Long Chen. The elder's eyes were turbid as if he was blind. But within those eyes, Long Chen seemed to see primal chaos and strange lines. There was something that he could not describe within them. Cultivation? "Forgive this disciple for his foolishness, but could Senior give me some pointers?" asked Long Chen. "When you can repeat the same simple action over and over again without any vexation and instead feel joy, you will understand. When I sweep the ground, I'm not just sweeping the leaves and dust. I'm sweeping away the vexation in my head, the dust in my heart. Once you understand the principle, you will find that the world is contained within a grain of sand. The cosmos is contained within a leaf. Every tiny thing has the potential to allow you to comprehend the mysteries of the grand universe's Daos," said the elder. Long Chen was shaken. The elder's words showed him another kind of cultivation, opening another viewpoint of cultivation for him. The world was contained within a grain of sand. The cosmos was contained within a single leaf. To look at what was big from what was small was an unchanging principle since ancient times. No matter how big the world was, it was built from the tiniest specks of dust. Through each speck of dust, it was possible to look at the entire world. The world was like this, so the heavenly Daos were also like this. This was why it was said that all 10,000 Daos were built on the most fundamental building blocks. As long as you could grasp those basic fundamentals, you could comprehend all Daos. With just a few words, the elder had opened a new door in Long Chen's mind. Countless fantasies were born within his imagination. It was like a valve had been turned on, and the feeling of enlightenment delighted Long Chen. "Do you understand?" asked the elder. Long Chen shook his head. "No." The elder nodded. "But your comprehension skill really isn't bad. Speaking of which, my memory isn't very good at this age. At the very beginning, what did I ask you? You asked me why I was vexed. In truth, I'm extremely disappointed in this academy's rules. It feels like the dean is a fool." Long Chen suddenly looked around to make sure that no one else was around to hear him insulting the dean. "Oh, but?" asked the elder. "The academy's rules and laws are filled with holes, resulting in all kinds of injustice. There's also the Chu family's people who have taken the entire academy to be theirs." Long Chen explained all the various unjust treatments he had encountered in the academy. When he spoke about Chu Huairan, he couldn't help unleashing a few coarse curses. For even those two magistrates to get off freely was extremely vexing. The elder listened to all of Long Chen's complaints before asking, "What would you do if you were the dean?" "If I was the dean, I'd slap all these idiots to death and seal all those holes. Although it wouldn't stop injustice completely, it would at least be reduced and things would be somewhat fair. An orderly system would rapidly raise the academy's unity and rate of growth. And then the academy would get stronger and stronger, no?" asked Long Chen. "After the peak of growth comes a decline. Once things reach one extreme, they can only go in the other direction. When the academy grows to its limit and is unable to keep growing, it will start declining. You might say that such a thing won't occur while you're here, but you can't possibly live forever. If you've already pushed things to the limit, how will someone else take over for you?" asked the elder. Long Chen was dumbfounded. He hadn't thought of such a problem. If you were the head of a large clan, then in your generation you could raise the clan to its limit, sweeping through all your enemies. But without you, the clan will start to break down. The more glorious you were, the greater the destruction of your clan. Long Chen was dumbfounded. He had never thought of such a thing, but he had to admit that what the elder spoke of was reality. After reaching a peak, things must decline. This is an iron principle that has never changed. Some people skyrocket only to powerlessly fall afterward. Some are even stronger and smash right into the limit of these heavens. As for the result, there's no need to say it. Unless you can smash through the limit of this world, you cannot touch that barrier. All things are governed by laws. The heavens have the heavenly das. These laws are like cages around every single existence. It just so happens that in this world, there is a special group of people who like to smash into that heavenly ceiling. Even if they have to die for it, they leave their blood as a mark on that ceiling. They're a group of fools but also a group of true brave warriors. They are called by the domineering and resounding name of 9-star heirs, said the elder, staring at Long Chen. What? Long Chen shot up, staring in shock at the elder. Senior Tu. Long Chen jumped in shock. He hadn't expected this sweeping elder to have seen through his identity as a 9-star heir. Was it just for him to hear? No need to be surprised. In the immortal world, there are plenty of 9-star heirs. You've managed to disguise yourself quite well. You've merged the 7 Supreme Yang technique and the Starry River of the Sky art together to trick others. Furthermore, your 9-star hegemon body art has deviated from the normal framework, so your aura is quite different from the other 9-star heirs that I've seen. At least for now, you don't need to worry about your identity being exposed. You can cultivate in the academy peacefully, said the elder. Many thanks, senior. Long Chen hastily bowed in thanks. He hadn't expected this elder to have seen through him, but this elder was actually keeping this secret for him. That made him feel much more at peace. Senior, you've seen other 9-star heirs? Asked Long Chen. I've seen a few hundred, I suppose. Where are they? Asked Long Chen delightedly. He wanted to see them. His own 9-star hegemon body art had left its original track, so he wanted to see if he could learn the correct way to cultivate this technique. They're all dead. The last one I saw was 5,700 years ago. The elder shook his head. Hearing this, Long Chen was speechless. His excitement vanished. Don't think about finding others. Every time a 9-star heir's identity is exposed, it will draw countless experts who hunt them down. Supreme experts will pour out until they are dead, so you should just peacefully cultivate in the academy. Don't disturb your heart with such trifles. As the saying goes, the earth doesn't grow nameless grass, and the heavens don't give birth to useless people. Every person has their own fate. Whether it is to be a commoner on the streets, an imperial regent, or a peak heavenly genius, they are all parts of the pieces that move the world. Bad things aren't necessarily bad, and good things aren't necessarily good. Whether they are good or bad can only be determined in the future. Why worry about them now? Long Chen nodded. This elder's words made him feel much better. He felt his vexation being undone as if the entire world had grown brighter. The elder was correct. When Long Chen thought back to his past, many of his experiences had brought forth his current self. Some things that had been thoroughly terrible were not actually bad for him now. Without those things, he wouldn't be who he was now. Before the result came, everything was still unknown. Why be vexed? The future was still unknown. Anything and everything was still possible. Senior, does our academy have the Nirvana scripture? Asked Long Chen suddenly. Yes, we have 7 of the volumes. It is rumored that the Nirvana scripture has 9 volumes, and our academy can be considered to have preserved it well. We have 7 volumes, while Lord Brahma himself only has 8. The 9th volume has always been a mystery, said the elder. Long Chen was delighted to hear that the academy had further volumes of the Nirvana scripture, but the elder's later words confused him. Wasn't the Nirvana scripture created by Lord Brahma? How can he only have 8 volumes? The elder shook his head. First came the Nirvana scripture, then came Lord Brahma. The Nirvana scripture was created by someone else. Long Chen's heart pounded. He had always thought that the Nirvana scripture was created by Lord Brahma, but it actually wasn't. If the Nirvana scripture wasn't created by Lord Brahma, why did he call himself Brahma? Asked Long Chen. The elder simply smiled. It cannot be said. Long Chen was finding this elder more and more mysterious. He knew many things but refused to say them. Here, help me up. I've rested enough. I have to keep sweeping. The elder extended a hand. Long Chen hastily helped him up. He then grabbed the broom and said, "How about disciple helps you sweep?" The elder shook his head. Some things look simple but are difficult to do. With your current heart and temper, you aren't capable of this. Child, go do your own things. Long Chen then respectfully bowed to the elder before leaving. This elder was truly a curious existence. Just who was he? In any case, his words today had truly enlightened Long Chen. Many principles were now clear to him. He also came to understand many of the inexplicable parts of the academy's system. Sometimes letting things take their own course was the best kind of government. According to that elder, all things within heaven and earth had their own destiny. Like a river of stars, it flowed onward. All life within heaven and earth existed to push the river of stars onward. Right and wrong, good and evil, all these forces pushed the world onward. Yin and Yang existed together, and despite being opposing forces, they complemented each other, forming a whole. Even his bad mood was good. Hence, in high spirits, Long Chen had a beautiful sleep. Once he awoke, he was refreshed. Any fatigue from his battle against Chu Kuang was gone. He was filled with so much energy he had an urge to find a few people for a fight. His energy was almost burning with how intense it was. He was full of expectations for the inner academy. He had seen records of powerful flame cultivators in the Divine Scripture Pavilion, and those flame cultivators had all used the Nirvana scripture, which was why Long Chen had suspected that the academy had the Nirvana scripture. He hadn't been sure, but after asking that elder, it seemed he had asked the right person. The academy truly had the Nirvana scripture, and 7 whole volumes at that. It had to be known that he currently only had the first 3 volumes. Thinking of the next 4 volumes, Long Chen grew itchy. He had an urge to charge into the inner academy right now and learn them. However, there were still 3 days left until they were formally brought into the inner academy. Not wanting to waste time, Long Chen went to the Divine Scripture Pavilion and began reading again. During these 3 days, Long Chen crazily absorbed the knowledge here. Whether or not it was useful, he packed his head with this information. After speaking with the sweeper, Long Chen found that his view of the world had been too one-dimensional. He was a far cry from that elder. After 3 days, he had a splitting headache, and only then did he stop. After absorbing all that knowledge, he would need some time to digest it all. Just as he was resting, Luo Qingyang, Luo Bing, and the others arrived. Everyone once more set out to the inner academy. This time, everyone was burning with fighting spirit. They knew that the inner academy was a whole new world waiting for them. Opportunities and challenges existed together, so they were nervous and excited. The guards at the gate once more saw Long Chen. Some of their wounds had yet to fully heal, and they barely even checked their status plates before letting them through, not even daring to say anything during the procedure. Seeing this, Luo Bing and the others almost laughed. As expected, a wicked person was best handled by an even more wicked person. After encountering Long Chen, they instantly became obedient. Another gate then appeared in front of them. This was the gate to the true inner academy, and there was already a group of people waiting for them in front of it. However, when they saw one of the members of that group, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Luo Qingyang, and the others' expressions changed. As for Long Chen, he smiled. "Chu Huairan, I didn't expect you to be here to welcome me. What a surprise." A reminder that the characters for Brahma are the same as Nirvana. Thus, one would assume that the Nirvana scripture was made by Brahma. When newcomers joined the Inner Academy, there was normally a ceremony overseen by the Inner Academy's experts on the level of Heaven Masters to welcome them. However, nobody had expected to see Chu Huairan here. However, the current Chu Huairan was no longer wearing the robes of the Discipline Institute. He was wearing a new set of white robes instead. Long Chen smiled. Although this old ghost had come out again, he had been demoted. He was no longer one of the heads of the Discipline Institute. Before Chu Huairan could say anything, Long Chen cupped his fists. "It seems that Senior has been transferred to the Inner Academy. Congratulations on your promotion." Due to attacking a disciple during the divine competition, Chu Huairan had been severely punished. However, because Long Chen hadn't been killed, and Chu Huairan repeatedly claimed that he hadn't wanted to kill Long Chen but simply suppress him, he was just stripped of his status as one of the 3 heads of the Discipline Institute and sent to the Inner Academy. At this moment, Chu Huairan truly hated Long Chen to the bone, and it just so happened that he was overseeing the welcoming ceremonies today. Hence, he had figured out what he wanted to say to frighten Long Chen and make him uneasy in the Inner Academy. After all, he still had a high status in the Inner Academy. As Long Chen was essentially in his territory now, he would make sure that Long Chen wouldn't have a good time. However, when Long Chen directly congratulated him with the mocking of a victor, his fury got to his head. As a result, all his words were forgotten. You're shaking. You shouldn't push yourself at your age. What if you hurt yourself? Who will take care of you?" asked Long Chen. Just seeing Chu Huairan quivering with rage was enough to show how much he hated Long Chen now. It was precisely due to this that any one of Long Chen's movements could infuriate him. Long Chen naturally knew what his goal was in coming here. Whether it was to frighten him or make him too uneasy to properly cultivate, Chu Huairan simply wanted Long Chen to know that the Chu family's roots were deep within the academy. If Long Chen hadn't encountered the sweeping elder before this, perhaps his mood would have instantly been soured. But now he wasn't very angry. Bad things now weren't necessarily bad for the future. Opportunity lay within danger, and it just depended on how a person viewed them. Hence, he was still calm facing Chu Huairan. Chu Huairan wanted to say something, but none of his prepared veiled threats came to mind. "Long Chen, you still aren't aware of how close to death you are. After killing Chu Kuang, it's not just the Chu family that won't let you off. You've blasphemed Divine Venerate Brahma. After killing a Divine Venerate's follower, you should just wait for death." Long Chen disdainfully said, "Give it up. If Divine Venerate Brahma really wanted to kill me, would you be so kind as to tell me so that I'm warned? You are simply trying to apply mental pressure on me. That shows that you are currently unable to do anything. The only thing you can do is use that old and ugly face of yours to disgust me. Even after all your years, you didn't grow a brain. Did you only come here to get cursed out by me? My mood is good today, so I don't want to. But looking at that face of yours, I feel like not cursing you would be letting down your parents. Well, let me just say that I stopped playing such childish games in my youth. If you want to play this game with me, I'll play you to the death, so I'd advise you to hurry up and scram. Otherwise, once I catch your tail, I'll directly alert the Discipline Institute. You should know that you're no longer one of the 3 heads of the Discipline Institute. When the trial comes, the positions will be switched. I wonder if you'll start crying at that time? What you? At your age, you should hurry up and find your grave in your family. Let me tell you, I've studied face reading. If you don't start accumulating good karma now, you will very likely die without a corpse, advised Long Chen. Impudent dash. I, Long Chen, have been impudent for a long time. Are you only realizing it now? Make your play now. If you don't have a play, then just die. Don't lounge around here to just disgust others. Hey, what's wrong with all of you? This old fellow is new and doesn't know the rules, but what about the rest of you? Do you not know what to do? Asked Long Chen to the other experts with Chu Huairan. These people were elders of the Inner Academy, but they were lacking a general manager, someone with greater authority who was in charge of all the Inner Academy's supervision and management. This situation today didn't actually require such a high-level figure to personally oversee things, but one had come, so they could only listen to this newcomer. However, then Long Chen had come and directly cursed their new manager, leaving them too dumbfounded to even say a word. When Long Chen had come to check in, he had beaten hundreds of guards. This story spread his name to countless disciples in the Inner Academy, and they also came to learn of Long Chen's battle with the Chu family. Originally, they felt pity for Long Chen inside, thinking that Long Chen would be suffering under the management of their new manager who was from the Chu family. However, their new manager was struck first by Long Chen. At this moment, Chu Huairan felt like he would explode in anger, but he was actually helpless to do anything against Long Chen. These elders simply looked at Chu Huairan. If Chu Huairan didn't say anything, they didn't dare to start the formalities yet. What are you all looking at me for? I was just passing by and came to take a look. A little lower world ascender bumpkin is meaningless to me, cursed Chu Huairan. After cursing, he turned and left, not daring to stay here any longer. In this state, he might say the wrong thing and let Long Chen gain an advantage over him. Then he would be the unlucky one. Chu Huairan's plan failed miserably, so he stormed off. However, his furious appearance shocked Luo Bing, Mu Qingyang, and the others. This formerly influential existence had actually just become a general manager here. Although such an existence sounded like it was backed with a great deal of authority, it was an empty title. In theory, he oversaw everything, but every real decision was something he could only give his opinion on. He didn't have the authority to actually decide anything. Chu Huairan had tried to apply some pressure on Long Chen and the others today. If it weren't for Long Chen, he might have succeeded in making them worried. Regretfully, Long Chen instantly saw through his thoughts, so he could only dejectedly leave. Even the other elders found this funny. But considering their status, they didn't dare to laugh. Ignore him. That old fellow didn't eat his medicine before coming out. Just treat him like a crazy dog. I heard that we have a complicated welcoming ceremony. How about we make it simple so we don't waste everyone's precious time? Proposed Long Chen. The elders smiled. They found his temperament to be very good. Hence, they did just as he said and tossed out some of the complicated formalities. Long Chen and the others then received maps of the Inner Academy, new robes, 300,000 immortal crystals each, keys to their housing, the rules to the Inner Academy, and many other things. Junior brother, I look favorably upon you. Let me give you a warning. Chu Yang is already your mortal enemy, so there's no need for me to say anything about it. There are 2 powers within the Inner Academy that you cannot offend, or you will truly be doomed, said the elder who was the head of this group. Oh, please tell me, said Long Chen. In the Inner Academy, the Chu Alliance is ranked 7th amongst the guilds, so there are 6 guilds that are stronger than them, said the elder. Mu Qingyang and the others were startled, But Luo Bing and Luo Ning were already aware of this. Their Luo alliance was ranked 10th, the bottom of the top 10. The elder said, rank 3, 4, 5, and 6 are existences that you can provoke if you want. Although you'll suffer for it, it won't be too bad. But the first and second ranks cannot be provoked for any reason. As for why, you can just ask around in the inner academy and you'll know. Even if you don't provoke them, be on guard. I'm sure you understand my meaning. Long Chen naturally understood. The elder was saying that even if they didn't provoke these existences, Chu Yang might intentionally create some conflict between them. That was definitely something easy for Long Chen to fall for. Many thanks. Long Chen cupped his fists toward this elder. He wasn't bad. He knew that as a newcomer, Long Chen needed such a warning. After bidding them farewell, Long Chen and the others continued onward. 2 large mountains then appeared up ahead. It was a natural mountain pass. At this moment, a multicolored divine light shone down as Long Chen walked up to the pass. All of a sudden, the scenery around him changed, and they appeared within a vast mountain range. As for Luo Bing, Luo Ning, and the other disciples of the Immortal Institute, they had vanished. Most likely, this was the abode for the God Institute's disciples, and Luo Bing and the others should have been sent to the Immortal Institute. Normally, Mortal Transcendence disciples couldn't use transportation formations. But Long Chen and the others had reached the peak of Mortal Transcendence and expelled their mortal qi, having powerful physical bodies. Since that was the case, this transportation formation wouldn't have much impact on them. At this moment, Long Chen stood at the top of the mountain and overlooked the mountain range that stretched far in every direction. Every peak had countless cave entrances. Every cave was an immortal cave. Unlike Outer Academy disciples, Inner Academy disciples had their own independent immortal caves. Moreover, every immortal cave had its own spirit-gathering formation, cultivation room, and training room. It was like heaven and earth compared to the residence of Outer Academy disciples. Every person's status plate was connected to their own immortal cave. However, there were also differences between the immortal caves. The ones at the foot of the mountain were the worst, while the ones at the top were the best. If they wanted a better immortal cave, it was simple. Simply pick out someone with a better immortal cave and challenge them. If you beat them on the divine rankings, not only would you gain the rewards of their ranking, but you would also get their immortal cave. The people with good spots didn't have it easy as they were often challenged by others. If they lost, their immortal caves would exchange owners. On the other hand, no one would fight for the ones at the bottom because there was no need for it. Everyone would be given one when they first entered the academy, so there were a lot of caves to go around. Long Chen quickly found his own immortal cave. He entered and found it to be quite spacious and clean. This 30-meter room had nothing inside of it. There were 3 doors in this room, and when he opened one of them, spiritual qi gushed out. This was the cultivation room. There was a formation disc covered in holes within the room. Those holes were for immortal crystals. If you felt that the spiritual qi in the cultivation room was lacking, then this formation could release the energy within immortal crystals to increase the density of the spiritual qi. However, it was a money-burning method. Hundreds of immortal crystals could be burned at one time to fully release their immortal spiritual qi. In other words, as long as you had money, you could have as much immortal spiritual qi as you wanted. Normal people couldn't play with such a thing. In the next room, he saw several humanoid puppets. But after a look, he curled his lips. This training room also had formation discs. Every puppet had a formation disc on its back, which meant that the puppets cost immortal crystals to activate and become sparring puppets. Long Chen had an urge to test his fists, but he saw it written clearly on the puppets that they had to first be activated by immortal crystals before usage, or if they were broken, the academy would come after them for the money. In other words, they could be broken, so Long Chen shook his head and abandoned that thought. Who knew whether or not he would lose a fortune because of a single punch? Hence, Long Chen punched the wall instead. As a result, the entire room shuddered, and a 1-inch deep imprint was left on the wall. But it quickly vanished. This wall also had formations and could automatically repair itself. Cultivators could use the wall to test their power. The record has been broken. You may go to register with the Inner Academy for 3,000 immortal crystals. A wooden sound rang out in the room. Long Chen's punch had actually activated its recording powers. I broke a record and got a reward? Long Chen punched the wall again. With a booming sound, the runes on the wall were destroyed, and no voice rang out. What the fuck? It broke? Long Chen was speechless. It seemed that this immortal cave was too low level. However, it made sense. Everyone was given this kind of immortal cave when they joined, so it definitely wasn't something amazing. There was also a small, quiet room to the side, but there was nothing else other than that. This immortal cave might be excellent to Outer Academy disciples, but Long Chen didn't feel anything in particular when it came to it. After checking out his immortal cave, he left and closed the stone door. Looking at his surroundings, he rushed off to the peak of the mountain. In the future, I have to live at the peak of the mountain. Ignoring everything else, at least I'd be close to a transportation formation. Every mountain peak had a transportation formation on it. As these mountains were incredibly large, it was actually a bit far from the bottom of the mountain to the top. Not far from the transportation formation was another immortal cave, and it had its own glorious signboard. However, it was closed. There was no way of telling the situation inside. Long Chen eyed that immortal cave for a moment before stepping onto the transportation formation. He then activated it, and the scenery around him changed once more. He appeared in a large hall. There were many people coming and going here. When Long Chen appeared, quite a few odd gazes were cast his way. It was because everyone else was wearing white robes, and only he was wearing black. However, Long Chen ignored their strange gazes and headed to the end of the hall. He then took out his status plate. I want to enter the Divine Flame Spirit Pool. The Divine Flame Spirit Pool was a place that countless outer sect disciples dreamed of going to. It was the best place to condense the Divine Flame Seed. It was rumored that the High Firmament Academy's Divine Flame Spirit Pool was the envy of countless sections. Many heavenly geniuses came to this academy only for the Divine Flame Spirit Pool. Reportedly, the Divine Flame Spirit Pool was connected to an underground dragon vein. It gathered the spiritual yuan of heaven and earth, using the purest, most primal source of energy in the world. It was the best thing to build a person's foundation. Condensing a divine flame was very important to every cultivator. The divine flame was the source from which a person's potential was stimulated. It was where all a person's energy was ignited. In the mortal transcendence realm, people did their best to excavate their potential. But a person's potential was as mysterious as the cosmos. Some people were as inconspicuous as random pebbles on the road before condensing the divine flame, but afterward, they might erupt with a different power. In the mortal transcendence realm, a person was like a stone. Only when the divine flame was ignited would that stone split open, revealing what treasures were lying within. However, without a good source of energy to ignite a person's divine flame, a person's potential would not be fully excavated. And if the potential wasn't excavated, it might remain dormant forever. If Mu Qingyang and the others hadn't become elite disciples, they would have to buy spirit pills to ignite their divine flames. In this case, although they could still enter the divine flame realm, much of their potential would remain hidden to them. They would be fated to remain pebbles on the road for a lifetime. On the other hand, elite disciples had the privilege of entering the divine flame spirit pool to ignite their divine flames. Back then, Chu Kuang could have chosen to make his breakthrough during the battle. With his advantage as a divine flame expert, he wouldn't have been defeated. Even if he was defeated, he wouldn't have lost his life. One reason he hadn't was because he had never imagined that he would lose, while the other reason was that the divine flame spirit pool was something that could not be bought with money. Even with the Chu family's power, they couldn't have such a thing. That was why Chu Kuang had been waiting the entire time. If people still left behind spirits after they died, it was unknown whether or not Chu Kuang's spirit would go crazy with rage. He had won in the previous divine competition. However, the moment he defeated Mu Qingyang, he admitted defeat, giving up on that chance. He had done this to target Mu Qingyang. Moreover, his cultivation base back then had yet to reach the point of breaking through to the divine flame realm, so he still had some time to kill. While he waited, he could also bring in another batch of powerful experts into the inner academy, strengthening the Chu alliance. Regretfully, this grand aspiration of his had been ended by Long Chen's hands. As for Long Chen, he had now come to the Divine Flame Spirit Pool in order to enter the Divine Flame realm. Hello. The Divine Flame Spirit Pool is full right now. You need to wait in line. Looking at the number of people who have registered, it should be your turn around 3 days from now, said the woman in charge of this matter. No way. I rushed over here so fast, and I still need to wait? Asked Long Chen. The woman smiled. You must have entered from the outer academy, right? You must not be aware that in the inner academy, hundreds of thousands of people enter this place through various examinations. Hundreds of thousands? Exclaimed Long Chen. She explained, it is possible to directly apply to become an inner academy disciple. However, it not only requires top-tier talent, but the other thing is, well, you understand. Long Chen came to a sudden understanding. So directly applying for the inner academy required not just talent but also money, neither aspect could be lacking. As for the outer academy, those disciples lacked both money and talent, so they could only enter through competitions like the divine competitions. Long Chen smiled. In the past, he might have greatly detested this method, but after hearing that elder's words, especially that part about there being no nameless grass of the earth, no useless people of the heavens, he understood many things that he hadn't understood before. Every person had their own use, their own meaning. It was up to you how to use it. The academy was not a charity. In order to exist in this cruel world, a person had to find their own meaning of existence in this world. Alright, then I'd like to make my reservation now. Thank you. Long Chen received a tablet that said 598, meaning that he was 598th in line. Just as she handed it to him, the number dropped by 1, showing that someone had ignited their divine flame and their position was handed to the next. The woman warned Long Chen to keep the tablet with him at all times. He had to pay attention to the number, or he might miss his spot. If he missed it, he would have to line up again. Long Chen then nodded and left with the tablet. As soon as he left, someone within the crowd also vanished. Long Chen has registered for the Divine Flame Spirit Pool? Excellent. The chance has come. We'll kill him there. Within a private room, Chu Huairan listened to that person's report and smiled sinisterly. Uncle, didn't we already discuss this? Long Chen is to be left to me. There was another person within the room. It was Chu Kuang's big brother, the head of the Chu alliance, Chu Yang. He frowned. Chu Kuang had been killed by Long Chen, infuriating the Chu family. After that, they sent out orders to kill Long Chen to win back their reputation. This responsibility naturally fell into Chu Yang's hands. To him, this was a great thing. Long Chen had killed Chu Kuang, and now he would kill Long Chen. When that happened, his reputation would instantly soar. It would be one of his important chips to fight for the family head position. Young, this is not a game. I know you want to personally kill Long Chen for your own list of achievements, but Long Chen is not as simple as you imagine. Every time I see his gaze, I get a bad feeling. If we have the chance, we must kill him. We cannot leave him any chance. Don't worry, no matter how he dies, the credit will go to you. A man would rather fight with wits, not power. Killing people without seeing blood is the most superior method, said Chu Huairan. After several interactions with Long Chen, for some reason, Chu Huairan felt more and more afraid of him. If Long Chen didn't die, it would be difficult for him to find peace. Alright, then I'll arrange things. Chu Yang nodded helplessly. No, don't interfere in this matter. I'm afraid of you not being completely clean. If that bastard catches you, it will be troublesome. I will personally arrange it so that not even gods or ghosts could tell, said Chu Huairan. Then I'll leave it to you, said Chu Yang. Speaking of which, what about the Luo family? The Luo family? They're worthless. That idiot Luo Qingyang has actually become jealous of Long Chen due to Luo Bing and has rejected him. Moreover, he even infuriated Luo Bing. My subordinates tell me that Luo Bing has just applied to create her own guild. The Luo family was already weak here, but now that their power is scattered, They won't be able to even bear a single blow from us, said Qingyang disdainfully. Good. Keep an eye on Long Chen's movements. This time, I want him buried in the divine flame spirit pool. A ruthless smile appeared on Chu Huairan's old face. Long Chen quickly rushed toward a large tower in the distance. As he walked, he slowly smiled disdainfully. He could sense several pairs of eyes on him wherever he went, but when he turned around he didn't see anyone. That meant that these people were experts in concealing. However, they couldn't conceal themselves from the 9-star Hegemon body art senses. Long Chen sighed. The Chu family truly did have eyes everywhere. He had just left his immortal cave and their eyes already fell on him. They truly had immense power here. However, he wasn't afraid. If they dared to touch him, he would directly kill them. Originally, his hatred for the Chu family stemmed from Long Outyen's mother. She was the one who had harmed his father, his mother, and him, forcing them to separate. Even then, Long Chen's hatred would have been concentrated only on her, not the rest of the Chu family. However, now Long Chen knew that the Chu family was one of Brahma's dogs, so he no longer had any misgivings. He would kill everyone from the Chu family. The Divine Scripture Pavilion. Long Chen arrived at the Inner Academy's Divine Scripture Pavilion. However, before he even entered, he was forced out. The rule was that only Divine Flame experts and above could enter this place. Furthermore, entering this place required a ticket. One entrance was 30,000 immortal crystals for him, and that was thanks to his status as a mortal rank instructor. Unless he reached the human rank as an instructor, he couldn't go in for free. He then went to the testing place for instructors, and an earth rank instructor explained things to him. The latter was very polite. He said that Heaven Master Yunyang had brought him in. He told Long Chen that with his power, there was no need to take the exam. But there was an inflexible standard that human rank instructors needed to reach the Divine Flame realm first. As long as Long Chen advanced to the Divine Flame realm, he would be directly given the human rank instructor status plate. Hence, Long Chen could only leave for now. He had come to the Divine Scripture Pavilion in hopes of obtaining the Nirvana Scripture. He wanted to see if it was the same as his Nirvana Scripture. Furthermore, after he saw it, he would be able to freely use the Nirvana Scripture, which would be another trump card that he didn't need to hide for fear of the consequences. Unfortunately, there were still 3 days until he could make his breakthrough. Mu Qingyun and the others finished registering for the Divine Flame Spirit Pool as well and were in the midst of establishing the Unfettered Alliance within the Inner Academy. Not wanting to laze around, Long Chen went to the Pill Institute. Fortunately, the Pill Institute didn't care about the cultivation realm of their disciples, and Long Chen actually saw the 7-star elder here. I didn't expect you to have come out of seclusion already. Long Chen was surprised. Last time, a disciple had informed him that the 7-star elder would only be coming out around half a month from now. It was a failure, so I came out early. But you really are amazing. Our Pill Institute has actually produced a fighting alchemist. It's quite the marvel. The 7-star elder Heziyu smiled. Alchemists were supposed to maintain a clear heart, focusing entirely on increasing their spiritual strength and mental energy. At the same time, they had to cultivate the pill das. Only when the heart was at peace and the mind was bright could you refine pills. With Long Chen's explosive temper, he had charged his way through the God Institute and entered the Inner Academy. That was definitely a marvel. Senior, are you being sarcastic with me? This academy has far too many idiots. If you don't slap them, they block your way. What other choice is there? Long Chen bitterly smiled. If you had a choice, who would wish to waste time on these idiots? Long Chen had far too many more important things to do. What have you come to the Pill Institute for? Asked Heziyu. I want to take the examination for the Inner Academy's Pill Institute. If it's possible, I also want to become an instructor here. I do dual pill and martial cultivation, as well as dual god and immortal cultivation. With all those paths, I am lacking money. Being an instructor would be very beneficial to me and save me money, said Long Chen. You wish to take the exam to be an instructor of the Pill Institute? Heziyu was startled, as he had never seen Long Chen refine pills. He had never heard of him refining pills in the Pill Institute either. Ever since Long Chen had come to the Pill Institute and beaten up that instructor, he had never attended classes there. But today, he wanted to become an instructor himself? Heziu didn't know if Long Chen was joking or not. I've gone to the medicinal fields, and through very normal means, bought quite a few medicinal ingredients. After that, I'm always refining at home when I have time. I feel like I've gotten skilled in various techniques, so I want to be an instructor. Can you open a back door for me? I'm hoping to finish it quickly. Long Chen rubbed his hands, a bit embarrassed. This examination normally occurred only once a month, but he didn't want to wait that long. You refine pills when you have time? That sounds quite arrogant. Heziu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If it was another disciple saying this, he'd have long since cursed them. Did Long Chen consider alchemy to be as easy as eating? He would occasionally eat a bit when he had time, and thus mastered the skill? I don't know how to explain it. How about I just do this? Long Chen extended a hand, and 5 flame seeds danced on his fingers. They were like lively monkeys, going faster and faster. This was a foundational technique of an alchemist. Only those familiar with the transformations of the flame could control the flame easily and naturally when refining pills. 2 flame changes marked the introductory level. 3 marked that someone could formally start refining pills. 4 was someone who was quite skilled, someone capable of taking the mortal rank instructor examination. 5 flame changes? It indicated that one was capable of taking the human rank instructor examination. Hence, Heziu was shocked to see it, but the real shock came afterward. The 5 flame seeds got faster and faster until they started to grow chaotic. And yet, no matter how they moved, it still seemed smooth. Dozens of flame changes occurred in an instant, dazzling the eyes. This flame control is something even some Earth rank instructors lack. Who did you learn from? Asked Heziu in shock. I'm simply exceptionally talented, a self-made genius, said Long Chen humbly, putting away the flames. Heziu was speechless. He definitely didn't believe Long Chen, but everyone had their own secrets. It wasn't his place to question this. Let's go. I'll hold the examination for you. Heziu directly brought Long Chen to an examination hall. There were hundreds of tables here, and this was where the examination was normally held. However, this time, Long Chen was the only one taking the exam, and Heziu was the only one overseeing it. After that, Heziu activated a photographic jade and several formations to prevent cheating. Everything was held according to the normal rules of the examination. Let's start the examination. You have 3 sets of ingredients. Refine a high-grade muscle bone strengthening pill within 6 hours and you will pass. The time starts now. Heziu turned an hourglass with golden sand upside down, and the sand slowly started flowing down. 6 hours later, Long Chen left with a new status plate. Heziu stared at a starry medicinal pill in his hand with a blank expression. What a monster! An elder appeared beside Heziu. Institute head, why have you come? Heziu jumped in shock and hastily greeted him. This elder was the one in charge of the Pill Institute. He then received the medicinal pill in Heziu's hands and stared at it. I was drawn over by the aura of a treasure pill. At such a young age, Long Chen couldn't possibly refine such a pill. I don't understand. Let alone disciples, even elders that have been cultivating the pill Tao for centuries can't refine a furnace of treasure pills so easily. Heziu shook his head. In the immortal world, other than the standard grades for medicinal pills, there were also 3 classifications representing 3 different levels. The 5 grades were low, middle, high, top, and peerless grade. Outside of these 5 grades were 3 additional classifications: spirit pills, treasure pills, and golden pills. Spirit pills were the most commonly seen. As long as a pill contained enough spiritual qi, it was considered a spirit pill. However, a treasure pill had transcended the limit of a spirit pill. It contained laws in addition to spiritual qi, causing it to undergo a fundamental change. This was no longer a matter of a person's alchemy technique because it also required an extremely deep understanding of the immortal Tao's laws. Alchemists that had bitterly cultivated for hundreds of years might still not be able to reach this level. Even if they could, their chances of refining treasure pills were definitely less than 1 in 1,000. When he saw Long Chen refine a furnace of treasure pills, Ziyu was simply too stunned to react. This shock could not be described with words. Even as Long Chen left, he simply stood there, dumbfounded. He had no idea how Long Chen had done this. If it was just a matter of technique, that would be one thing. But comprehension of the heavenly Taos is another matter. How can Long Chen possess such a profound realm? While refining, he became one with the Tao. Institute head, can you please tell me the answer? Long Chen is he? Asked Ziyu. No, there was no forceful rebirth. His spiritual fluctuations are still young, and this can easily be sensed. Furthermore, our academy's formation isn't for nothing. Plenty of old ghosts had snatched the bodies of our disciples and tried to steal the academy's treasures, but weren't they all easily captured? Long Chen is not possessed. But as to how he did it, it's not important. There's no need to investigate this to the end. Just act like you don't know. What level of status plate did you give him for this? Asked the institute head. With his power, he could challenge the heaven rank instructor exam. But after the refinement, he said that he was out of spiritual strength and didn't want to continue refining. In truth, he had at least 80% of his spiritual strength left. He just refused to continue. If he had, I feel like he would very likely pass the heaven rank exam. But since he didn't, I could only give him an Earth Master status plate, said Ziyu. That little fellow knows how to be cautious. To have power but not be overly arrogant is a good thing. When it comes to Long Chen, help him out as much as possible as long as it doesn't break the academy's rules. Yes. Ziyu nodded. The institute head looked toward a divine statue in the examination hall. The statue was worn down, but there was a flower in its hand. At this moment, a strange light appeared in the institute head's eyes, and a smile slowly crept over his face. Well, Long Moon Refiner, how could you two be so exaggerated just now? How did you refine treasure pills? Grumbled Long Chen. Even Long Chen was stunned by the treasure pills he had refined this time. At that time, he had acted like he didn't recognize them as treasure pills, but he knew that this act was meaningless. It couldn't escape Ziyu's eyes. With his current power, he had refined treasure pills, and at the 1-star grade at that. If this information spread, it would shake the entire Pill Institute. He didn't want to become a focal point. At that time, who knew how much trouble would come for him? After talking to them, he learned that Huolong had finished absorbing the energy of the companion ore, and its power had soared. As for the moon and star refining furnace, while it was refining in that room, it had sensed a strange energy entering its body. That energy seemed to come from the statue, resulting in the treasure pills. Long Chen was startled by that. According to what he knew, it was the statue of the founder of the Pill Institute. Long Chen had immediately noticed the jewel blood jade orchid in its hand, but he hadn't had a chance to ask about it. In any case, with his status, he wasn't qualified to ask about some important matters. Also, he hadn't found anything in the Outer Academy's Divine Scripture Pavilion regarding the Pill Institute's founder. Perhaps he might find something in the Inner Academy. Well, I got the Earth Master status plate. There's also a large reward for this. Not bad. Long Chen then went to the Inner Academy's medicinal fields. After that, he found one of the supervisors and showed him his status plate. He even said some frightening words, saying that information about them selfishly keeping some plants and trading them had already spread. It had to be known that working in the medicinal fields was lucrative not because of the pay, but because of the extra plants that were secretly grown. Unfortunately, the money didn't just enter their own pocket. Seeing an Earth Master come to find trouble for him, this person was clear that this Earth Master was asking for money. Everyone knew the unspoken rules of the medicinal fields. The ones down below didn't report it, and the ones high up didn't investigate it. If they did come to investigate, then they were really coming for their share of the profits. However, Long Chen directly refused his bribe, causing this person to quiver in fear. He didn't want money? Then did he want his life? Long Chen directly said that he came because he wanted them to hold themselves back a bit. They couldn't keep going over the top because the higher-ups had caught wind of this. If they didn't start holding back more, they would be truly caught and punished. When Long Chen actually warned him so nicely, he instantly realized that Long Chen was on their side. Otherwise, he wouldn't be acting like this. After a round of scolding, Long Chen asked for what he came for. Very quickly, 3 of every plant within the medicinal fields landed in Long Chen's primal chaos space. There were tens of thousands of different plants, and he gained them just like that. Feeling satisfied, Long Chen left, leaving a group of supervisors that were filled with gratitude toward him. As an Earth-rank instructor, Long Chen was entitled to a high-level immortal cave in the Pill Institute. It was 100 times better than his current immortal cave. However, he couldn't live there because the Pill Institute was independent. If he was there, then if Luo Qingyang and the others wanted to find him, they would have to go through a long process instead of directly going to him. If there was something urgent, it would be troublesome. Ultimately, Long Chen returned to his immortal cave in the God Institute. He began planting the new medicinal ingredients he had gained, organizing them in a way that it would be easy to find them afterward. In the outer academy, he had only come into contact with first-tier medicinal ingredients. Hence, the pills that could be refined from them were also only first-tier, usable by mortal transcendence disciples. In the inner academy, he had obtained second and third-tier ingredients, allowing him to refine pills for the Divine Flame realm and the Four-Peak realm. He essentially no longer needed to worry about medicinal ingredients for these realms. After Long Chen finished planting everything, the tablet on his waist suddenly began to flash. Damn, I'm 5th in line now. Long Chen was startled and hastily ran off. So much time had passed without him realizing it. If he missed it, he would have to queue again. Long Chen then rushed out of his immortal cave. Just a moment afterward, a different figure vanished from the shadow of a tree. Good, I made it on time. Long Chen managed to arrive at the entrance to the Divine Flame Spirit Pool just as it was his turn. He then sighed with relief. After he handed over his tablet, a passage appeared before him. As soon as he stepped in, a wave of fiery heat washed over him, making him feel like he was immersed in lava. This fiery heat contained the pure source energy of the world. As soon as it touched him, his blood began to flow faster within him, and it activated his nerves. It was as if every drop of blood within him was jumping, as if every pore on his body was open, greedily absorbing the energy here. It truly is a precious land. No wonder so many people work so hard just to come here. Long Chen could feel the energy here pouring into him. It was as if just breathing in this air was making him stronger. After entering the passageway, he saw countless formations around him. He then seemed to see many pools with immortal qi gushing within them, but he wasn't able to see them clearly before they vanished from his vision. Someone led the way for him. After a long path, they arrived at the end of the passageway. There was a door here. This is the Divine Flame Spirit Pool. Remember, every individual has a limit to how much of the spirit pool's essence they can absorb. If you absorb too much, you might lose your life, warned the person leading him. Many disciples wanted to activate more of their potential, and so they absorbed more and more of the spirit pool's essence. However, by doing so, they surpassed the limits of their bodies and lost their lives, usually by body explosion. Such a thing was not all that rare. Hearing this piece of information, Long Chen nodded and thanked that person. Once Long Chen entered, that person took out a formation disc and pressed on it. A sluice gate then slammed down, blocking more water from flowing into the pool. Just as that person finished this and was about to leave, he sensed something strange behind him. As he turned back, something struck the back of his neck, and he fell unconscious. The one who had struck him was a figure cloaked in mist. It was as if this person lacked a solid body. This figure then reached out and grabbed the formation disc. Looking at it, that figure showed a faint smile. When Long Chen entered, the door closed behind him. There was a pool of water within this 30-meter room, and mist began to rise out of it as the energy of heaven and earth gushed in. Long Chen found that this room was a sealed place. With the door closed, he didn't need to worry about others peeping on him. Hence, He directly took off his clothes and jumped into the water. Long Chen let out a startled cry when he entered the water. He felt all his pores fully open and crazily absorb the energy inside the pool. His body was like parched land absorbing all the rainwater it could. At this moment, he felt incomparably relaxed, as if he was floating in the clouds. As his body slowly changed, his 108,000 stars slowly activated. Long Chen could vaguely feel his stars also absorbing this energy as his body absorbed it. However, his body seemed to have priority. His 108,000 stars were only absorbing a very small portion. It seemed that the body would become full before it was the stars' turn. The source energy of heaven and earth. It couldn't be. Long Chen's heart suddenly shook. His 108,000 stars had been condensed in the mortal world. Now that they were in the immortal world, they also needed to go through mortal transcendence. As his body underwent mortal transcendence, did his 108,000 stars also have to undergo mortal transcendence? If that was the case, just how much energy would it require? Would it break the upper limit of the divine pool? If his 108,000 stars failed to absorb enough energy for mortal transcendence and he directly leaped to the divine flame realm, would they never be able to go through their mortal transcendence? Upon thinking of that, Long Chen's expression changed. He had forgotten about his 108,000 stars and been in too much of a rush. He had to first think of a way to change his 108,000 stars before condensing his divine flame. Senior brother, my body suddenly feels off. Let me out. I give up on this tempering. Long Chen suddenly jumped out and pounded on the door. This was no joke. His 108,000 stars were the foundation of his power. If a problem occurred, it would gravely impact his future potential. However, he was shocked to find that even as the door rumbled, there was no reaction from outside. Hey, is anyone there? Let me out. I'm going to die, shouted Long Chen. At this time, he didn't care about face. Little brat, you're quite vigilant. You actually know that you're going to die? A sly voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. When Long Chen heard this voice, he was enraged. Old dog, it's you? This voice belonged to one of the former 3 heads of the Discipline Institute. It was the other magistrate besides Chu Huairan, and Long Chen actually still didn't know his name. Brat, even if you break your throat shouting, it's useless. This place has a formation around it. I can see you, but you can't see me. Your voice can also only be heard by me. No matter how you shout and beg to be saved, no one will come, said the elder. Old dog, you dare to harm me here. Are you not afraid of the academy investigating and executing you afterward? Raged Long Chen. As he shouted, he examined his surroundings, hoping to find somewhere he could break out of. Don't waste your effort. This is a sealed place. The bottom of the divine pool is an earthen vein that leads to the source of the world. There is a sluice gate that you cannot pass through. Even if you did, the energy at the source of the world would kill even someone like me, let alone you. Brat, I'm honored to be able to hold your execution and watch as you die in despair. As for the investigation of the academy, don't worry, I'll shift all the blame to that unlucky fellow. I'll transplant some of the memories of killing you into his soul. When the academy does a soul search, the truth will come out, laughed the elder. Just at this moment, Long Chen felt a wild surge of energy gushing out from the bottom of the divine pool. The source energy of the world had increased several times. At this moment, Long Chen instantly thought of a possibility and was overjoyed. But he acted terrified. Old ghost, what are you doing? Hee, I'm strengthening the flow of source energy so you blow up. What? Are you afraid? Laughed the elder. Long Chen had been curious about how he had been schemed against without sensing anything. Now it seemed that this scheme posed no danger to him, which was why he hadn't sensed it. Old ghost, I won't let you do as you please. Long Chen roared and sat outside the lake, seemingly ready to fight back. Idiot, do you think that you can endure it? The elder sneered and patted the formation disk. After that, the water rapidly rose until it filled this entire space. Good child, you really are great. Long Chen was delighted. He had been worried about not having enough world source energy here, but this old fellow had actually come just for him. Long Chen was admiring that sweeping elder more and more. Just as he said, bad things might be good things tomorrow. If the academy hadn't let off these two old ghosts, how could they have schemed against him here so delightfully? Long Chen's skin turned red as endless world source energy poured into him. This was the most primal energy of the world. Long Chen had once encountered it in the Martial Heaven continent. The Martial Heaven continent had passed all of its energy to him so that he could protect all the lives that were born from it. Although the immortal world's source energy was different from the Martial Heaven continent's source energy, he still remembered this aura. Furthermore, for some reason, he felt an indescribable familiarity with this world's source energy. Although it was torrential and practically trying to rip him apart, when it actually entered his body, it became gentle and warm. It constantly strengthened every inch of his body. The world's source energy could stimulate the latent talent within a person's body. It was truly the most primal energy and critically important to a cultivator. As this energy poured into his body, he sensed his essence blood being purified and his physical body rapidly growing stronger. 2 dragons then appeared on his arms. Even Huolong and Lei Long came out to absorb this energy. This energy was the source of all things. The flame and lightning energies were only a portion of it, but this energy was immensely beneficial to Lei Long and Huolong. The elders saw everything that was happening to Long Chen, and he was shocked. He had already opened 7 sluice gates. For ordinary experts, only 1 gate was opened, and 3 gates would instantly kill them. However, Long Chen was still enduring with 7 gates open. Now, when the elders saw the 2 dragon marks light up on Long Chen's arms, he snorted and activated the formation disc, opening another 10 sluice gates. As a result, the space Long Chen was in rumbled, and water poured in crazily. It felt like knives were tearing apart his body. Anyone else would have long since died. However, while Long Chen was clenching his teeth as if he was bitterly enduring, he was laughing inside. He felt more and more world source energy pouring into his 108,000 stars. As he anticipated, his 108,000 stars began to transform, and a rune lit up on one of those stars. Blazing with divine light, it branded itself at the core of the star. After that rune was branded on his star, he could clearly sense that star had gained a trace of immortal spiritual aura. Furthermore, he sensed another kind of energy in his body. This star had finished mortal transcendence. In other words, it was a star of the immortal Tao. It would continue to generate more and more of this energy for him. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th stars began to transform one after another. Watching them transform, Long Chen almost cried out in excitement. However, his excitement then faded. At this rate, even 3 whole days wouldn't be enough to transform all his stars. He was already aware that a person could only spend 6 hours here. After 6 hours, the pool would close down, but there wasn't enough energy yet. Old ghost, you won't be able to kill me. I refuse to believe that there's no one outside. As long as I can last a bit longer, someone will notice, and you'll be doomed, shouted Long Chen. Even as he shouted, Long Chen acted like he was reaching his limit. These acting skills could definitely be called another kind of power. It really looked as if he was about to die. Idiot, I've already arranged things. No one will notice me here, so just wait for death. Are you afraid you're not dying fast enough? Then let me help you out. The elders sneered and opened another 10 gates. Boom. This space rumbled intensely, but Long Chen was so happy he almost kissed that old ghost. More and more of his stars were transforming. This feeling of fortune couldn't be described. For his enemy to help him out so much, he would never be able to forget this feeling. After an incense stick's worth of time, Long Chen actually spat out a mouthful of blood and roared, "Old ghost, your daddy here is tougher than you. You can't kill me. As long as I endure 6 hours, you're definitely dead." A person could only stay here for 6 hours. Once the time was up, they would be automatically transported out. At this moment, the first 2 hours were almost past, so there were 4 more left. In truth, Long Chen was even more panicked than the elder. At this point, he had only transformed over 3,000 stars. It was still too slow. There wouldn't be enough time at this rate. He had to further antagonize this elder. As a result, the elder snorted and activated the formation disc once more. However, he was shocked. Just how strong was Long Chen's physical body? He still hadn't exploded? He began opening gates one by one because he had activated too many. The current of the divine flame spirit pool might change and be sensed if he went too fast. He quickly opened up 50 sluice gates, but Long Chen was still alive. When he reached 100, Long Chen fainted several times but then revived himself after just a moment. Seeing this, the elder was so furious that he wanted to smash the formation disc apart. Long Chen's adaptability was extremely high. He got used to the new force every time. The elder began to sweat. He had never seen such a monster before. Long Chen practically had an undying body, and even he was getting afraid. Time passed bit by bit. The elder had opened 150 sluice gates, but Long Chen continued to appear on the verge of death without actually dying. The elder finally realized that something was wrong. Long Chen had remained in this state for too long, so he was starting to grow suspicious. He suspected that there was something special on Long Chen capable of allowing him to slowly adjust to the power of the divine flame spirit pool. The time was going to be up soon, but Long Chen had yet to die. "Fuck, just die!" the elder suddenly roared furiously. The runes on the formation disc all activated, and he vanished. Boom. Long Chen felt like the spirit pool was exploding as endless world source energy poured toward him. It was like a volcano eruption. Long Chen was startled. He hadn't expected this old ghost to be so vicious. The latter had actually unleashed such terrifying power. In his fury, the elder had opened over 700 sluice gates. That essentially stopped all the other divine flame spirit pools, concentrating all their energy here. Long Chen felt the sensation of death. Before he could even react, his star diagram appeared behind him, absorbing all this energy. He had transformed over 20,000 of his stars, but now the rate of transformation suddenly soared. 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. This world source energy was something that no one could endure. However, Long Chen's astral energy could be considered to be from the same source. It then crazily consumed this energy, wrapping around Long Chen. This vast energy rapidly transformed his stars, but at this moment, an ear-piercing alarm rang out. Clearly, that elder also knew that such a thing would occur and had hastily fled. Boom. At this moment, the entire room shuddered, and the world's source energy began to fade. The gushing water also slowly stopped. "They've finally come. Hee, but it's fine. I'm done." Long Chen then quickly put away his star diagram and looked inside of his dantian. All his stars had transformed. Long Chen truly didn't have a way to properly express his gratitude toward that elder. It had to be known that this energy was exceedingly precious. Just by himself, he had used up who knew how much. If it weren't for that elder trying to harm him, there would have been no way for him to obtain so much energy. Even if he became a heaven master, the academy wouldn't spend so much on him. Hence, Long Chen had truly profited. The door blew open. Several elders charged in, only to see Long Chen putting on his clothes. "You're still alive? I suppose. If I'm dead, then that would mean that you're also dead. If you feel that you're alive, then I should also be alive," said Long Chen, smiling at these elders in a good mood. These elders oversaw this place. When the alarm rang out, they found that all the sluice gates had been opened and were charging into one pool. Hence, they had immediately run over. They had originally thought that whoever was inside would have long since lost their life, so they didn't expect to see someone who was still alive and well. They were dumbfounded. After a long pause, one of them finally asked, "What happened here?" "You're asking me? Shouldn't I be asking you? Why did the water suddenly gush toward me? I almost drowned. Fortunately, I'm a good swimmer." "Well, I'm done, so you can do your investigation. Maybe there's a problem with the formation?" Long Chen walked out just like that. As he left, he saw many people standing within the passageway. Those men and women were all confused. They had been in the process of their own tempering when the water suddenly vanished. When Long Chen left, he didn't see the person who had brought him in. That elder had probably dragged him away. That elder was very crafty. By bringing that person away, he had covered himself with a protective talisman. Long Chen's guess was that that person was probably already dead. Under the excuse of committing a grave crime and killing himself in shame, they would have the perfect cover-up. A dead person couldn't testify. Since the elder had dared to personally move against him, he had to be confident that he could wipe away all the evidence. If Long Chen said something, it would be meaningless. He hadn't been able to see outside, and just the voice alone was not enough to punish the elder. Hence, Long Chen couldn't be bothered to waste any further thought on it. However, this attempt at his life did raise some alarm bells in his mind. He definitely couldn't take these fellows lightly. They were capable of coming out of any hole at any moment. Long Chen took a transportation formation back to his Immortal cave. He was midway down the mountain when he suddenly sensed something and dodged to the right. An arrow flew right by his ribs. The air around it spun, and it pierced into a boulder. Silent arrows. Long Chen was shocked. Guoran had used such arrows before, and they had killed many experts. Guoran had even used them to kill experts that were stronger than himself. After avoiding the first arrow, one after another shot out silently. Hence, Long Chen dodged left and right, and the arrows pierced into the mountain with large explosions. How fast? Long Chen relied entirely on his sense of danger to dodge these silent arrows and only narrowly managed to avoid them all. He didn't even have a chance to find where the attacker was. Long Chen could only repeatedly dodge as there was nowhere for him to hide. His assailant had clearly chosen this place to attack him. His 9-star Hegemon body art was extremely sensitive to any danger, including sudden sneak attacks. But it wasn't a sure thing. Some experts had specialized assassination methods that concealed themselves from all senses. Some people would even use a self-hypnotizing skill to make themselves forget that they were about to assassinate their target. Only when their target set foot in their trap would that hypnotism fade. There were other similar methods to avoid being sensed. The opponent was a terrifying archer whose attacks couldn't be sensed. Furthermore, these arrows curved toward their target. This kind of arrow was the most frightening as it often tricked a person's instincts, making them think that they had dodged only for the arrow to suddenly curve toward them. Long Chen was infuriated. He was actually treated like a rabbit caught in the open, a live target for his opponent. Furthermore, his attacker was actually extremely far away, and he couldn't reach them. He could only repeatedly dodge. After dodging dozens of arrows, Long Chen finally arrived in front of the entrance to an Immortal cave. He then smashed a fist into the door, blasting it open. After that, he charged in, finally escaping. However, when he entered, he saw a man and woman looking at him in horror. Long Chen was also shocked. It seemed that he had interrupted something romantic. The woman cried out, grabbed her clothes, and ran deeper inside. As for the man, he was about to angrily speak when Long Chen kicked him. Another arrow passed right by that man's cheek. If it weren't for Long Chen's kick, his head would have been pierced. He was so frightened that he knelt on the ground, not daring to move. More arrows flew into the room, but they were now just random shots, and Long Chen didn't even need to dodge. Long Chen then spread his spiritual strength outside. As a result, his divine sense only grasped a weak spatial fluctuation before nothing else could be sensed. His opponent had come prepared. "Big brother, many thanks." The man stared in shock at Long Chen and thanked him. "Brother, sorry for delaying your good thing. I'll make it up to you if I have a chance." Long Chen rushed out. He quickly found a footprint on a mountain peak. This was a very secluded area. Even if you run, so what? Even if you mess up your aura, your spiritual fluctuations won't immediately fade. "I've remembered you." Long Chen's expression was dark. This was his first time being used as a living target, and he didn't even manage to find the shadow of his attacker. Flames of fury ignited within his heart. "You also failed?" Chu Yang looked at the man beside him with astonishment. This man was of average height and average tanned appearance, with the only alarming thing about him being a pair of eagle-like eyes. They appeared shockingly sharp. This person was one of Chu Yang's subordinates and also a terrifying archer. He was a mixed-blood descendant of the human race and the heavenly eagle race, so his eyes could see through a person's weak points. He had killed many powerful experts and was one of Chu Yang's most capable generals. Furthermore, he was a secret trump card that Chu Yang didn't easily expose to others. Chu Yang was extremely confident in his killing power. If he caught someone off guard, no one was capable of dodging his assassination. The magistrate elder had immediately alerted Chu Yang about the failure, having him prepare for an assassination. The failure this time made him extremely uneasy. Based on Chu Yang's calculations, after narrowly escaping death, Long Chen's mental state had to be worn out. This was the best timing to kill him. Following normal logic, after failing, they would immediately focus on cleaning up the evidence and should be in a state of panic at Long Chen having escaped. Long Chen truly had thought that this was what they would do. Having not expected the Chu family to immediately send an assassin after him, he had been caught off guard. That was why Long Chen was so enraged. The feeling of being schemed against was hard to take. However, Chu Yang hadn't expected this terrifying archer of his to still fail after catching Long Chen off guard. He almost couldn't believe it. His sense of danger is frighteningly sharp. My arrows that are specialized at bewildering other people's senses were useless against him, said the eagle-eyed man. He was a terrifying expert that had killed many people who were actually stronger than him. Hence, he was extremely proud of his achievements. But today, that confidence received a blow. It was his first failure. This Long Chen will sooner or later become a tumor to our Chu family. Since we missed this opportunity, killing him in the future will grow more and more difficult. Other than the eagle-eyed man and Chu Yang, Chu Huairan and the other elder were also present. The elder's expression was gloomy. Even now, he didn't understand how Long Chen hadn't died. Chu Huairan also didn't believe it. He was extremely clear on just how terrifying the energy was when hundreds of sluice gates were opened at once. Even Chu Huairan would instantly die without a trace, but Long Chen was still alive. Even Chu Yang's #1 archer hadn't managed to succeed after catching him off guard. He hadn't even touched Long Chen's clothes. They were growing more and more shocked. If Long Chen had some special treasure protecting him in the divine flame spirit pool, then that was somewhat understandable. But for him to even dodge the eagle-eyed archer's assassination attempt, that meant he relied on actual power. We were clean with both our attempts. Even if Long Chen knows it was done by us, he has no proof and can't touch us. At least having a decent opponent will make life more interesting. The stronger the target, the more satisfying killing them will be, said Chu Yang with a grim smile. Yang, don't get careless. Long Chen is extremely dangerous. Don't let him ruin everything, warned Chu Huairan. I have never underestimated any opponent. Don't worry whether it is in terms of power or strategy. Other than those two, I'm not afraid of anyone in the inner academy. The Chu family's prestige was damaged by Chu Kuang's death, and now is no longer the time to conceal our power. We must reveal our fangs at the necessary time. Chu Huairan pondered this and nodded. You are correct. Some people that we bought have started growing antsy. Those fellows really think that our Chu family is lacking. What a bunch of fools. But fools also have their own value. Let's find a few ways to counterattack. However, after missing this chance to kill Long Chen, we won't have another good one for a while. We'll have to endure. Uncles, make sure not to leave any evidence for others to take advantage of. Although Long Chen doesn't have any proof, one little clue could lead to a mistake, said Chu Yang. Chu Huairan nodded. This trait of yours is gratifying. If your little brother had half this steadiness, he wouldn't have ended up like he did. All right, we'll leave for now. After Chu Huairan and the elder left, the eagle-eyed man suddenly said, should we prepare for a sneak attack? With his cooperation, the two of us can definitely eliminate Long Chen. Chu Yang shook his head. It's useless. Long Chen isn't such a fool. It will be difficult for us to catch him off guard again. Even if the two of you attack together, considering that he is now prepared, it will be difficult to succeed. You'll also end up exposing yourselves, and that would be troublesome. Long Chen has the head judge's support, so he is just looking for our Chu family to leave ourselves open. You would be sending him your heads by attacking. Then what can we do? Don't be hasty. An opportunity will definitely come. Long Chen has many weaknesses, while we have plenty of cards to play. Toying with him to death is simply a matter of time. Not killing him this time isn't necessarily a bad thing. Perhaps he can even help us with some matters. Chu Yang smiled. His voice was full of confidence. He lightly rubbed a string of prayer beads around his wrist. There was a figure carved on that prayer bead. If Long Chen was present, he would definitely be astonished. That figure carved into the prayer bead was the other god that Pill Valley worshipped, Fallen Day-Night. The Divine Flame Spirit Pool was closed for 3 days to investigate what had happened. The ultimate conclusion was that a problem had occurred with the formation. After it was repaired, disciples resumed entering. When Long Chen received this news, if it was before, he would definitely turn up his nose and scoff. But now, he understood what it meant for a smart person to know how to act foolish. That was its own kind of ability. As for foolish people who acted smart, those were the real idiots. There were truly many people like this. For example, in Long Chen's eyes, the most obvious ones were the two brothers, Chu Yang and Chu Kuang. Long Chen had always felt that he didn't lose out in terms of intelligence to anyone, but after the battle of the Martial Heaven continent, he found that intelligence was truly worth crap. He even felt regret about wasting the effort on little tricks in the past. If that effort was spent on steadily advancing his cultivation, then perhaps that battle wouldn't have ended so miserably. Perhaps he wouldn't have had to just watch as Chu Jianying, the old man, Ling Yunzi, Hu Feng, and the others died one by one. In the immortal world, Long Chen gave up using schemes. He wanted to focus all his time and effort on cultivation. Mu Qingyun and the others had to wait for the Divine Flame Spirit Pool to be repaired, so they went to recruit others. As for Long Chen, after resting a day, he reached his peak condition. He then went to the Pill Institute. The outer region of the Pill Institute was empty. After he found a rather safe place with no one else there, he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there were flame seeds within them. At this moment, his blood qi ignited, and a giant blaze erupted around him. He finally began to attack the Divine Flame Realm. Entering the Divine Flame Realm began with igniting the Divine Flame Seed. Long Chen had read that this realm involved condensing a flame seed first, and it would decide which direction their growth would proceed in. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, light, dark, soul, blood, bone, essence, qi, there were all kinds of variants. Upon reaching the peak of mortal transcendence and undergoing the tempering, a person would come to realize what aspect they were strongest in. They would choose that strongest element and condense the flame seed around it. If a person had a powerful wood element lying dormant within them, they would condense a wood element flame seed. And once they entered the Divine Flame Realm, all the other attributes within them would start to deviate toward wood element energy. That would make their power even stronger and purer. A person commonly chose their strongest attribute when condensing their flame seed. For example, Mu Qingyun had her sword Dao and chose to focus her Divine Flame seed on the mind, the spirit. In the future, it would be easier for her to become one with the sword Dao. As for Luo Bing and Luo Ning as immortal cultivators, they would normally choose the path of the soul, but due to the Luo family's bloodline inheritance, they would definitely choose to ignite an essence blood flame so that they could cultivate their family's inherited magical arts with half the effort. Condensing a divine flame was something that required consideration from all aspects. Hence, every person chose different paths for different reasons, such as their background, bloodline, inheritances, or simply personal reasons. However, Long Chen cultivated the 9-star hegemon body art. All his growth was concentrated there. He had done some research as to whether or not he should choose the path of a body cultivator, but it wasn't just his physical body that was strong. His physical body was just the holder of his astral power, and his strongest power came from his 108,000 stars. As his astral power was limitless, wielding it required a powerful body, or the immense power would simply blow him up. However, if he only focused on his body and neglected his 108,000 stars, it would be putting the cart before the horse. It might lead him down the wrong path. Right now, Long Chen could only progress cautiously. He didn't know what kind of path lay before him, but time waited for no one. He couldn't spend a few years testing and researching. Furthermore, even after a few years of research, he might not find anything. Thus, Long Chen decided to simply grit his teeth and advance without thinking about it. He would just go with the feeling. With naked arms, Long Chen sat on a boulder. He formed hand seals, and his blood qi ignited. After that, the space around him twisted and turned. Without him needing to take further action, all the energy within his body ignited, forming a blazing fire around him. As the flame raged, the boulder he was sitting on turned red hot. The surrounding grass was instantly incinerated. The divine flame ignites all the energy within a person's body, drawing it out. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, light, dark, soul, blood, bone, essence, qi, and countless other kinds of energy manifest themselves. According to the Academy's records, it is extremely easy for a person to sense their strongest aspect at this time. As long as that aspect is ignited, then there are basically no mistakes. Why can't I see anything though? Long Chen saw various runes burning in front of him. Within these flames, there were different runes representing different kinds of energy, and he could sense them clearly. According to the Academy's records, whatever aspect a person was strongest in and had the greatest potential in would be larger and have a deeper color. It should be very easy to distinguish. However, the runes around him were all the same color and size. Even though he felt that the power of his physical body should be the strongest, that rune was no different from the others. Is this to say that my power is evenly distributed? That's impossible. I have no talent in metal, wood, water, and earth. My flame and lightning energy are controlled by Huolong and Lei Long, so they don't really count here either. Other than that, my strongest aspects are my physical body and my soul. But why don't I see anything different about them here? Long Chen was dumbfounded. Igniting the divine flame was like choosing one of many paths. If the wrong path was chosen, that would lead him to catastrophe. Long Chen helplessly continued to ignite his power. The flames around him grew more intense and the air started to ignite. This flame was the flame of his life. He couldn't unleash it for long before his very life was consumed. However, he had to unleash this flame to its max power in order to uncover his potential. He couldn't hold back at all. As the flames exploded out of Long Chen, a ring of light spread further and further out of him, and a pillar of flames soared into the sky. If others saw it, they would definitely die of fright. Most people summoned flames within a range of 30 meters, and even elite disciples were normally within 300 meters. Lastly, those who had passed 3,000 meters were shocking existences. However, Long Chen's flames had already spread 100 miles. It was unbelievable. Fuck, how is it still the same? As Long Chen unleashed all his power, the runes truly grew larger and their color intensified. But they all grew together. There was still no strongest aspect to be found. Just as Long Chen's anger flared and he didn't know what to do, the 108,000 stars inside of him quivered. Before he could react, those raging flames were greedily consumed by his stars. After that, his star diagram appeared, and his flames vanished, spreading throughout his 108,000 stars. The flames had been split into 108,000 shares. They were as insignificant as a candle's light falling into a sea when they fell into these stars. So the 9-star Hegemon Body Art's divine flame realm involves igniting the 108,000 stars. Long Chen was delighted. He hadn't expected that he wouldn't have to make a choice. Just unleashing his power was enough. Long Chen could sense that every star was like a starving dragon staring at his flame. On the other hand, his flame was like a single sparrow in the face of thousands of starving dragons. Long Chen then focused on his stars. He could sense that they seemed to be waiting for something, as if they were waiting for more flames to ignite them. However, with so many stars, even if he burned up his entire life energy, He wouldn't possibly be able to ignite them all. What was he to do? Just as he was rapidly thinking, his hair stood on end, and a sensation of death filled his heart. He then pulled his focus from his stars hastily. At this moment, a sharp sword stabbed into Long Chen's body and blood splashed. His body was almost pierced straight through. Long Chen was shocked. His first thought was that he had been sneak attacked. However, this was the Pill Institute's territory. Chu Kuang and the others shouldn't be able to enter. A bloody hole was stabbed into his back, and his whole body was numb. Long Chen then looked up and cursed. Aren't the immortal world's heavenly tribulations only supposed to start at the Four-Peak Realm? At some point, tribulation clouds had appeared above his head. Although they weren't that large, their attack had almost pierced through his body. Just at this moment, another lightning sword fell at Long Chen, and he felt the space around him freeze, leaving him with no way to dodge. Boom! Lightning wrapped around Long Chen's fist as he punched that sword. As a result, his arm was left bloody and mangled. His bones were broken. "Lei Long, quickly absorb it," shouted Long Chen. There was no need for him to shout. Lei Long was already absorbing the rampaging lightning coursing through his body as soon as the first lightning sword landed. Otherwise, with his body numb, there would have been no way for him to block the second blow. This was Lei Long's first time absorbing heavenly tribulation lightning in the immortal world. This lightning contained the immortal world's will of destruction, and it was completely different from the mortal world's lightning or the lightning within those wild beasts. If Lei Long hadn't absorbed so much of the world source energy in the divine flame spirit pool, it wouldn't have been able to absorb this immortal lightning. However, even though it was capable of absorbing it, transforming it into its own power took some time, so Long Chen was still at a disadvantage with the second blow. Long Chen was shocked and enraged. It was common knowledge that in the immortal world, the mortal transcendence realm didn't have a heavenly tribulation. Hence, he had thought that he would also become like everyone else in the immortal world and would no longer suffer like this. However, his heavenly tribulations didn't care if he was in the mortal world or the immortal world, they still found him. Furthermore, they were still trying to kill him. At this moment, Long Chen felt minuscule in front of this heavenly tribulation. His terrifyingly powerful physical body was like paper in front of it. The third lightning sword fell. As his right hand had yet to recover, he blocked with his left hand, resulting in that arm also turning bloody and mangled. Long Chen then let out a painful grunt and fell to the ground. Damn it! The immortal world's heavenly tribulation is actually so terrifying. It doesn't want me to live. Long Chen clenched his teeth, his gaze grave. If this continued, he would very likely die in this tribulation. Since Lei Long was unable to devour this immortal lightning fast enough, more and more of it invaded his body. Suddenly, his 108,000 stars shuddered, and the berserk energy coursing through his body vanished, leaving behind only pure thunder force. Seeing this, Lei Long was delighted and crazily devoured this energy. Without that berserk, destructive will, this thunder force was the greatest nourishment for it. Long Chen was startled. He suddenly found that the small flame seeds within his stars had grown immensely. Could it be? Just at this moment, the fourth sword fell, while Long Chen's right arm shuddered. A dragon mark appeared on top of his arm. Boom! Long Chen's body shook, but his arm was not mangled again. It was because Lei Long's power had soared and was now capable of using a bit of the power of immortal lightning, protecting Long Chen. The power of the lightning poured into him once more, and that destructive aspect was absorbed by his 108,000 stars. After that, the flames burning within them instantly grew dozens of times. This lightning was like a wild beast. Lei Long wasn't strong enough, so absorbing it was extremely taxing for it. But when the 108,000 stars absorbed its destructive will, it was like all that remained of the beast was its tender flesh, and Lei Long could absorb it in an instant. The fourth sword was stronger than the previous 3 lightning swords combined. However, the divine flames in his 108,000 stars instantly grew explosively in the face of the fourth sword, showing Long Chen that if he wanted to fully ignite them, he needed to rely on the power of the Tribulation. Hence, Long Chen began to absorb the lightning runes of his own initiative. As he did, the flames in his stars grew bigger and bigger. Another lightning sword fell, several times stronger than the previous one. However, Lei Long was now in control of immortal lightning energy, so the sword shattered on contact with his hand. A huge amount of energy was then absorbed into Long Chen's body. At this moment, the flames within his stars reached a certain limit, and they vanished. Instead, specks of light appeared within the core of the stars. Boom! Another lightning sword fell, and Long Chen blocked with his fist, only to cough up a mouthful of blood. The power of this lightning sword was over 10 times greater than the previous sword. As a result, a sea of thunder force poured into his body. As usual, all of it was absorbed by the 108,000 stars, which began to blaze suddenly. After that, the seventh sword fell and was absorbed again. Based on Long Chen's experience, there would be 2 more attacks coming. As expected, lightning condensed in the sky, and the 8th lightning sword hacked down. Now, a lightning spear appeared in Long Chen's hand, as he no longer dared to receive this attack with his fist. Boom! When the sword fell on Long Chen, his spear exploded along with it. Long Chen was then knocked back and crawled up with dust and dirt covering him. Unexpectedly, at this moment, his Feng Fu star shuddered and ignited. Looking within himself, he saw that his entire star diagram had ignited, and all the flames now gathered on the Feng Fu star. After it was ignited, the flames charged toward the Alioth star. Then it was the Life Fate star, the Enlightenment Palace star, the Divine Gate star, and the Nethergate star. The 6 stars and the stars in his star diagram had all ignited. Long Chen felt like they were spirit pills about to come out of the furnace, and they were just lacking the final heating. At this moment, rumbling rang out above. The tribulation clouds instantly condensed into one giant sword. "You really want my life?" Long Chen cursed furiously. This attack contained the power to destroy heaven and earth. Although he was using this tribulation to ignite his stars, this tribulation was clearly trying to kill him. "Fuck, come at me!" Long Chen's lightning spear appeared again, and he shouted at that celestial sword of lightning. Boom! The lightning sword fell. Long Chen was like an ant in front of it. When the sword landed, the mountain that he was on instantly crumbled. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.